So it's been more than a year since Storm Connections came out, and I figured we might as well talk about the game's current state. You know, what changed, what stayed the same, you know, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And with more than 300 hours under my belt, I feel more qualified than ever to talk about this game. But, naturally, I will be retreading some ground from my previous videos, as is the case with pretty much all of my videos, so yeah, as you guys already know, Storm Connections came out on the 17th of November, 2023, and it was a complete disaster. Like, the launch was a disaster, everything leading up to the launch was a disaster, and everything that followed was also a disaster. So what went wrong? I think the better question would be what didn't. Now, as you already know, in March of last year, I made a nearly 4-hour-long video going very in-depth into this game. It was basically a rant on the game itself, and at the time, we had DLC Pack 1, so we had Hagoromo, and there was still no patch. If anything, Hagoromo made the game worse. Like, his jutsu was arguably worse than Ashura's, and Ashura's jutsu didn't get nerfed at the time, so I want to talk about what's changed since then. So, if I'm not mistaken, when Hagoromo came out, with him, we got Custom Online, because believe it or not, at launch, Custom Online was not a thing. What that meant, ultimately, was that you could not play this game with your friends. You couldn't invite your friends to your lobby. And most people play these types of games so that they can play them with their friends. So you could only play randoms, but when you play randoms, like let's say you make a lobby and some random joins and he has a really bad internet connection, he's a red bar, you don't want to play him, but you have to play him. You cannot leave the lobby, you cannot kick him out of the lobby, you can't do anything, so you're forced to play this guy who has a really bad connection. That was absurd. That was so incredibly bad. And not just that, but let me tell you something. When I was playing this game with my friend, we played online, right? We played player matches, and a few times, you know, sometimes something happens and the lobby crashes. But let's say that I beat my friend like 14-1. Like I had 14 wins, he had 1 win. Because of this, my ELO, it's not really called ELO, but it kind of went up, my win ratio went up. So now, if I try to search for my friend, if I try to search for a game, I would not be able to find my friend because his win ratio was lower than mine, right? So I can only play people who have the same win ratio as me, approximately. So what me and my friend had to do every single time was we had to delete our save files, or rather we had to use the same save file, and every time we decided to play the game, we would have to just, you know, put the save file into our save folder, right? That is absolutely insane, because if I scored more wins against my friend, and then the next time we wanted to play, we wouldn't be able to play, because he wouldn't be able to find me, and I wouldn't be able to find him, because our win ratios were different. That, to me, was absolutely insane. Not to mention, the game had so many issues with the lobbies, like desyncs, crashes. My other friend was constantly stuck on communicating, like the game would be communicating endlessly. It was chaotic. It was absolutely insane. When Hagoromo dropped, when the first DLC dropped, that was on the 28th of January, I think. Keep in mind, this game came out on the 17th of November, 2023. So, we got December, 2.5 months. It took them 2.5 months to implement this basic-ass concept. Most developers would have been prompted to actually delay the game because, you know, well, we don't have custom online. We don't want to release the game in this state. But I guess they got rushed or something. I really couldn't tell you. The bottom line is, this was absolutely terrible. Like, they really shot themselves in the foot with this decision, you know, like releasing the game in this state. But when Hagoromo dropped and Custom Online was finally a thing, it didn't really mend any of these issues because lobbies were still unstable. If you wanted to do an endless and you had more than 3 people in the lobby or more than 2 people, the game would constantly crash, like the lobbies would constantly crash. And I think that this is still an issue to this day. Like, if you're playing an endless, chances are, like, 7 times out of 10, the lobby will crash eventually. So that is absolutely insane. So the first DLC didn't really fix any issues. Not to mention that there were no gameplay changes. And Hagoromo, the character that came out, actually broke the game even further with his insane jutsu that was like top 2 in the game. Like, we had Ashura and Hagoromo, people were spamming those left, right, and center. It was absolutely lamentable. So the way this whole thing worked with DLCs was you get a new DLC once every 2 months, right, at the end of the month. So patch 120 is actually what we're going to be focusing on right now. So that's the Isshiki patch. So we got Isshiki, he was the second DLC character after Hagoromo, and let's see what this patch did. As a matter of fact, it actually did a lot, as far as I remember. So I actually compiled all of the most important, like the most relevant changes. There are a lot of changes to characters that nobody really cares about, so I did not include those. I will put all of these patch notes in the description below if you're interested in seeing all of them. So yeah, this is a compilation of the most important ones. So with Isshiki, with DLC Pack 2, with patch 120, Jutsu armors were finally nerfed. They weren't completely removed, but the biggest issues were gone. You can still sometimes experience some issues, like with Sarada's Chidori or Kakashi's Raikiri, but it's not nearly to the extent that it was at launch. So this did, like, they did a great job. A lot of people were complaining about these jutsu armors, and they actually fixed them. Keep in mind, we had like 2 to 3 surveys. Like CC2, they give us a survey and they ask us to provide feedback and tell them what's wrong with the game, what we want to see nerfed, and they actually listen to some of our complaints. So that's actually a really, really good move. But anyway, let's get back to the patch notes. So they increased the recovery speed of the support gauge after leader switching, especially for 2-man teams. So this was a great move because, like I said, at launch and with Hagoromo, the game, like, if you had one support, it would take the same amount of time for that one support to come back as it would if you had, like, 2 supports. So there was no reason to use one support. But this way, if you're using one support and you use that support, they will come back faster. So that's actually a good thing. I like that. And apparently this was a general change, like your supports would come back faster, I guess, so I think this is a good thing. They also made it so that substitutions would come back faster. Now, personally, I didn't notice this at all. Maybe they shortened the time by like a second, maybe not even, but I mean, if you say so. I personally didn't notice that change. Like, it still takes subs like 5 to 15 business days to come back, so. They decreased the damage that poison tags would inflict. This was a huge problem in the game. People kept abusing characters like Hanzo, PTS Shino, Hood Kabuto, all these characters simply because they had poison in their jutsus or attacks, or, they had the poison tag, and this got nerfed. Like, pre-patch, like, it would take a few of these tags to completely kill you. Like, I'm not even making this up. I provided an example in my previous video from Killaboy88, and yeah, this was an incredibly useful, incredibly beneficial change. Now, we had some really broken characters and jutsus that got nerfed, and believe me, these were a huge issue in the game. Now, keep in mind, again, like, some of these characters, even though they got nerfed, they're still pretty OP, some of them. But they're not nearly as hacks as they used to be at launch. So, the first example is Storm 3 Naruto, or old Tail Beastbomb Naruto's clone jutsu. Like, he had this clone jutsu where he fires a bunch of shadow clones, like this barrage, and they had insane tracking. The jutsu was so spammable, and Naruto was on every team. everybody was spamming this guy left and right. It was absolutely deplorable. I think the tracking is kind of like weaker now. It's not nearly as bad, but again, I never really used this character to begin with. I never really liked resorting to these cheap tactics to win, and like I said, I don't even play online. I only play with like two of my friends, and they don't really use Naruto. So I can't really tell you how he is right now, but from everything I've heard, he is not nearly as hacks as he used to be. Still pretty viable, but not nearly as hacks. So Storm 3 Naruto's clone jutsu has been nerfed. Kiba. Now, Kiba was nerfed over multiple patches. Mostly his damage. Like, this guy, like, his hitbox was insane. It was worse than Neji, worse than Yugito, Storm 3 Kakashi. Like, the guy was absolutely unstoppable. And his jutsu, like the Fang over Fang thing, it was also incredibly spammable. And everybody was spamming Kiba, which was so absurd. Like, Kiba is a character that came out in 2010 in Storm 2, and people were spamming this guy in 2024. That is so rich, man. I can't. So what they did was they nerfed his damage modifier to oblivion. Like, this guy basically deals no damage now. But like I said, like, and I just gotta keep saying this, you know, like, their method of fixing things is not to my liking. So it's like it involves three things. Either they will decrease the damage and cripple the character completely, or they will increase the chakra cost if the jutsu is very hacks, or they will make it so that the cooldown is longer. So it'll take a while before you can summon this character as a support to use that jutsu. We'll talk about that later. So, with Kiba, his hitbox is still the same. He's still pretty OP. It's just that his damage is completely nerfed, and there's no reason to use him because you will be at a disadvantage. Now, Hinata, everybody was using Hinata's jutsu, like the 8 trigram 64 palms rotation. Everybody was using it. It had insane armors, but because armors got nerfed, she got nerfed by extension. So that's what happened. And by the same token, Neji and his rotation jutsu, they were also nerfed, though his jutsu was never that big of a problem. Speaking of barrier jutsus, Pain's Shinra Tensei got nerfed. Now, this was arguably one of the top 3, maybe even top 1, like one of the best jutsus in the game. It had like 3 layers of armor. I went over this. Like, you would sub, like you could sub and then dash again and you would still be hit. You could switch, it wouldn't matter. The guy was unstoppable. Everybody was abusing the hell out of Pain, or having Pain on their team as a support just so that they could use Shinra Tensei. It was absolutely insane what they did with Pain, and they nerfed Pain in this patch. So another thing they did was they nerfed Edo Minato in his second jutsu, like the hitbox and the speed. This was another character that was being abused on ranked mostly, but also in random player matches as well. Everybody was spamming his second jutsu because, you know, it used to come out very fast, it had a large hitbox, but this got nerfed. I'm not saying that he's now bad, it's just that he's not nearly as OP as he used to be. So Edo Minato got nerfed, or well, his second jutsu. Hiruzen and his Shuriken Shadow Clone Jutsu, like the tracking and the speed, that also got nerfed. And, I mean, I still think it's kind of OP, but apparently it's not nearly as bad as it used to be. So Hiruzen, you know, his jutsu, it got nerfed. So that's also a thing. Hanabi, like her rotation jutsu, the chakra cost, it kind of got increased, so I guess you could call that a nerf, though I don't recall anyone complaining about Hanabi, like, ever. Hanzo also had one of the best jutsus in the game, with Ibusei, like the second jutsu. It comes out of the ground and it just interrupts your combo. It had priority over everything, and don't get me wrong, Hanzo is still pretty viable, and this jutsu is also, I would say, still pretty OP. But back then, it was just insane, especially because of the poison damage. It was like everybody was using Hanzo. Everybody was just abusing the hell out of this character and out of this second jutsu, be it as a support or as their main character. Everybody was just going Ibusei, Ibusei. So they nerfed the damage and the hitbox and the speed, but I still think that he's, kind of OP. Hood Kabuto, Snake Cloak Kabuto, like his snake jutsu with the poison, they decrease the damage. Basically, it's kind of the same thing they did with Hanzo, except, that jutsu wasn't nearly as bad to begin with. And now, of course, Ashura. Ashura, like both of his jutsus, both the Hurricane and the Rasengan Kamehameha, both of them got nerfed. Ashura, like just like Pain, he was like one of the top 3 characters. He had one of the top 3 jutsus in the game. Everybody was spamming this Rasengan like projectile thing, and it was just hell. I had an entire section in my last Storm video dedicated to talking about how OP this jutsu was, and not just this jutsu, but also the other one. But with the removal of armors, with the nerfing of armors, this also got nerfed. I'm talking about the Hurricane Jutsu, but when it comes to the second Jutsu, the Kamehameha thing, they made it so that, I don't know if they increased the chakra cost, but I know that if you have Ashura on your team as a support and you want to use that Jutsu, it will take like 26 seconds, I think, for him to, come back. So the cooldown is very long now. But still, this is what I'm talking about. The jutsu itself is still pretty OP. The properties, the hitbox, the fact that it has like 10 hits, the fact that it can break your guard, the fact that it hits even after you sub, these are all still there. They haven't been nerfed. What was nerfed, though, was the cooldown. For when you can use this jutsu. So that's what I keep talking about. But yeah, Ashura, he was a menace. He was impossible. But this did kind of nerf him quite a bit. So yeah, that's very cool. One other thing that I feel is kind of worth noting is that they also nerfed Jigen's raw jutsu, like the chakra cost, if I'm not mistaken, or the speed with which he backdashes. But honestly, this jutsu is still pretty OP. I have not noticed any nerfs, to be honest. Like, maybe a little, but it's still incredibly fast. He still backdashes very fast, and it doesn't seem like it costs a lot of chakra. It tracks like crazy, so I don't know exactly what they did here, but yeah. They also nerfed Sarada, like the kunai she has mid-combo, like they nerfed the distance, like I think the kunai, like it would fall to the ground mid-combo or something, or it wouldn't reach as far. I don't know, like I never really used Sarada all that much, but apparently this was a problem and they did kind of address it in a way. But from what I've heard, it wasn't a very definitive answer or way to resolve the issue. So yeah, so that was patch 120. And now we got patch 130. Now, patch 130, I think that's the kunai patch. Like, we got kunai. And with this patch, if I'm not mistaken, the thing that happened was Taka Sasuke, like, they made it so that he could convert off his air combo. Like, he didn't used to be able to do that. And they also made it so that Shisui could convert off of his air combo and grab, which, I mean, I'm grateful for, because I used to main Shisui back in Storm 4, but in this game, it's kind of hard to main anyone. But still, Taka Sasuke, I never used him a lot. Still, I guess it's a very nice change, so I'm not really going to complain. Pretty cool. But the biggest, like by far the biggest change in this patch was the nerf that Hagoromo got. So Hagoromo's jutsu, the divine lightning thing, that was one of the best jutsus in the game. Like top 3. After Ashura got nerfed, everybody switched to Hagoromo, because that's how it goes. You know, everybody, like, something gets nerfed, everybody starts using the next best thing. So, you know, this jutsu, just like Ashura's Rasengan thing, it had a section in my last video where I talked about it at length. It was insane. The hitbox was insane. Everything was insane about this jutsu. The resets you could do with it, and they actually did the same thing as with Ashura. They made the cooldown longer. So if you want to use Hagoromo as a support and you want him to use this jutsu, you would have to wait, I don't know how long, 20 plus seconds, I don't really know. But still, the jutsu itself is pretty OP, and me and my friend, we tested this out. Like, he picked Hagoromo, he had him on his team, and even though the cooldown was indeed longer, the guy was still pretty OP with that jutsu. Like, the jutsu itself, the properties are still the same. They said they nerfed the hitbox or the duration of the jutsu, but I didn't really feel that. So once again, an example of how they don't really nerf the core issue. They don't really address the properties of these jutsus, but instead they just, you know, increase the chakra cost, or they make the cooldown longer, or they decrease the damage to just discourage people from using this. Which, like I said, I'm just not a fan of this method. It seems like such a cheap, like, cop-out, like, oh yeah, we don't want to work this, you know, we don't want to work on this, we don't want to address this issue, we don't want to actually fix the jutsu, we're just gonna make it, you know, let's just completely cripple this character or something. So, yeah, the jutsu, I would say, is still kind of viable, but not nearly as much as it used to be. Patch 140, Kawashiki. Now, this patch was also very, it did a lot of things. So, the first thing they did was, they introduced some wonky, like, thing for disconnections, like disconnection penalties. Like, if you rage quit, you get punished. I don't know anything about this, bro. I don't know anything about it because, like I said, I only play this game with my friends, and I never really cared about any of this, like the rage quitting or any of that. But from what I've heard, it didn't really mend the original, like the actual issue. Like, apparently you can circumvent the penalties somehow still. So, yeah, I don't really know anything about this. Some people were content, but a lot of people were like, what is this? Like, this doesn't really fix anything. So, yeah. The second thing that happened, and don't quote me on this because I don't use puppets, so I don't know if I'm very qualified to talk about this, but they did nerf they removed the lightning kunai glitch that puppets used to have. So puppet masters like Kankuro, PTS Kankuro, Sasori, and Chio, they could use the lightning kunai glitch, and it was just completely game-breaking. So the lightning kunai glitch, I think it's something that used to be present back in Storm 4 as well. So the way this works is, and I'm not sure, so don't quote me on this, but I think the way it works is you need to have a puppet master character, you gotta control them, and you use the tag, and then you counter, and then you use the guard break pill, all at the same time. You gotta be really fast. So you throw a tag, then counter, then guard break pill. And what's going to happen is your character will throw this lightning kunai at the opponent, and that shit will stun them for like more than 5 seconds, I think. And it gives you enough time to do whatever you want. An ultimate, just about anything you desire. So, if I'm not mistaken, I think this got nerfed with this patch. Now, you can see some examples here. There are tutorials online on how to do this, but I think this got nerfed with Kawashiki. Puppets are still the meta in the game in its current state. Like with Borushiki, puppets, they're like top 1. That's like worth mentioning. So yeah. So Choji's awakening priority got nerfed. He had this insane priority in his awakening with dashing and everything. So There's that. DMS Kakashi, his Kamui Jutsu, like, I think they made it slower, but even though they made it slower, it's still incredibly OP. It takes a considerable amount of chakra, but it is one of the go-to jutsus, even in the game's current state. So, even though they nerfed it, I don't think it's enough. Shikamaru's parachute jutsu with the kunai, the kunai bags, I think they increased the cooldown, so that was their way of nerfing the jutsu. I don't know if this really fixed the issue. That they did the same thing with PTS Shikamaru, because people were abusing these jutsus, but I don't know. I still feel like these jutsus are kind of OP, if I'm not mistaken. I really don't know, but that's what I think happened. PTS Naruto's Demon Wind Bomb, like the Shuriken Jutsu, they increased the cooldown, but from what I've heard, the Jutsu is still considerably OP, even right now in the game's current state. Not as much as it used to be, but I still think it's kind of, it did get nerfed, but it's not all that, right? So, Ino's poison effect on Jutsu, like, I think they made it so that her Jutsus have poison in them, which didn't used to be the case, so I guess she got buffed in a way. I don't really know. Kiba got nerfed to oblivion. Once again, they nerfed his damage even more. And they also nerfed Hanzo's Ibuse Jutsu. They made the summoning of Ibuse slower, and they made the dash canceling time slower. But again, I still think that Hanzo is still pretty viable. They also nerfed, and this is a big one, they nerfed Isshiki's grab. When Isshiki came out, he was easily, like, top 1, or top 3 characters in the game. Like, the guy, his grab, like, he was a walking grab. He had this insane priority, insane armor. Me and my friend, we would constantly joke, like, every time we played the game, we would just constantly send this freezing emoji, like, chilling and all that, and, like, every time we would land a grab, the whole match would just be grab after grab after grab, like, it was a contest, like, who can score more grabs. They nerfed the startup time for his grab, and I don't know if they also nerfed the distance, but I think they just lowered the damage and made the grab slower overall. They also increased the cooldown of Boro's Virus Jutsu, which was kind of OP, not incredibly OP, but it was kind of OP, so they did kind of nerf it. And they made it so that Delta could convert off her air combo, which didn't used to be possible. So that's a pretty huge change. But by far, the main thing in this patch that we got with Kawashiki was the removal of Shuriken resets, or, well, kunai restands. Now, I use the term remove very loosely, because the thing is, these resets never really got removed. They're very much present in the game. It's just that you can't use them on downed opponents. So if you use if you finish a down combo and you try to reset your enemy with a shuriken, you wouldn't be able to wake them up. But you can still do it mid-combo, and you can still input a support, and you can still kind of, destroy your enemy with resets. Now, as you already know, for the uninitiated, for those out of the loop, shuriken resets are this thing where, in layman's terms, it's just like waking your enemy up by throwing a shuriken, and this would render the damage scaling completely useless because it would reset the damage scaling to 0. So every time you throw a shuriken and you hit the enemy, you would inflict 100% damage. Like, the damage scaling goes back to 0. And this was, like, absolutely, like, everybody was abusing this. Now it's less prevalent, but it's still very much present in the game. It's just used differently. It's not as accessible, but you don't even have to be good at the game to be able to use resets, even in its current state. So, yeah. And finally, patch 150, Borushiki. They increased the chakra cost of spark dashes, which a lot of people were asking for. They thought that, they were basically free. it wasn't fair, so they did nerf that, which I guess is cool. And this general nerf to Spark Dashes nerfed Kaguya by extension. We'll talk about that later. They buffed guards, so, Chakra Dashes and Ninja Dashes, they basically do less damage on guards. It used to take, 2 air dashes, or I don't really remember, but it takes 1 more dash now to break your guard, if I'm not mistaken. So, they did buff guards, which was a huge problem in the game. The guards would break way too easily, 1-up combo, and it's GG. So, they also made it so that Chakra Dash canceling would take more Chakra. Now, I don't know how I feel about this. I guess it's alright. I guess it's okay, but, whatever. They also nerfed Karin. They basically made her jutsu slower. It's way slower now. So, yeah, but Karin, I think she's still kind of like the meta in the game because, I'm not talking about the damage itself. I'm just talking about the jutsu, the properties, the buffs, the everything. So, I think Karin should still be, looked into. But by far, the biggest change in this patch was the nerf to Kaguya. Kaguya was probably the best character in the game, to be honest. And it is... oh, man. Whew. Alright, look, Kaguya had this thing with her ice dimension where you would just keep, mashing and spark dashing, turbo dashing, ad infinitum. Now, this is not easy, per se. You do need some practice. My friend, who's an advanced player, he was able to do this with relative ease. And he was disgusted by this, and so was I. This was, I would say, I don't know if this is the worst thing I'd seen in Storm, but this was definitely one of the worst things I had ever seen in Storm, gameplay-wise, in terms of balance. Just looking at that, even my friends who don't play Storm were like, this looks brain dead. What the fuck is this? Look at the health. Your health would disappear. This shit would break the game, right? Now, this tech was discovered by Playco, right? He's probably the best Connections player and the best Storm player in general. Now, I think Playco's a cool guy and all. I'm not, dissing Playco here. And I think Playco has done a lot of good for the community. He's always out there trying to, make the game better. He's been at it for, the longest time. And Storm Evo was actually his project. So, this is obviously not me dissing Playco. This is about some other people. This is going to take a lot of restraint, man. There are several people in the community who would defend Kaguya with their life. With their life, man. They were like, no! This takes skill! I had to practice so hard for this! I had to practice so hard for Kaguya! And it is taking so much restraint not to call these people out. Of course, I wouldn't be naming anyone, obviously, but my friends sent me a bunch of these screenshots of some of these people and what they were saying. They were writing essays, man. They were literally saying how they would cry or hurt themselves even if Kaguya got nerfed. And then people are like, yeah, what did they do to Kaguya, man? They nerfed Kaguya, bro. Why did they do this, man? And, so, I even saw some of these people, they would actually tweet at CC2, asking them, yo, you gotta bring Kaguya back, you gotta make her OP again. That, to me, is just, I have no words for that. You see this, and look, I am not saying that this is easy, alright? I'm not saying that this is something that anyone can do. You need to know turbo dashes, right? I mean, my friend knows how to do that easily. Obviously, he's an advanced player, so that's not a problem for him. But the fact of the matter is, sometimes even things that aren't easy per se are just so disgusting to look at, so game-breaking, that it would, if I knew how to do this consistently, I still would never use it, because it is so goddamn horrible to look at. It is beneath me. I wouldn't be able to sleep at night knowing that I beat someone with this fucking insane, whatever the fuck you want to call it. It's a glitch, obviously. It was never meant to be in the game, and obviously it was only a matter of time before it got nerfed. But so many people in the community, well, not so many, but there were a few, who were like, oh man, this is terrible. No, what did they do to my mommy Kaguya, man? No, they nerfed mommy Kaguya. You know, it's like, I don't know if these people were just, you know, being sarcastic. This is one thing with the Storm community, because I'm really cynical. I basically, like, marinate in meta irony and all that, but sometimes I can tell if certain members of the Storm community are for real, or if they're just trolling. Like, I can't tell if they're playing 5D chess, if they're, like, genuinely fucking trolling, and if they're actually geniuses, or if they have this, like, is this bait, or is it your unfiltered dog shit opinion? Like, I just want to know. Like, in some cases, it's very hard to tell, but unfortunately, I'm leaning towards the latter, right? Unfortunately. I feel like a lot of people, and this is a thing, this is a recurring issue with Storm, a lot of the members of its community, they start abusing something, right, that's spammable, and they become convinced that this actually requires a lot of skill, therefore it's completely okay for me to spam this. And when this completely game-breaking glitch gets nerfed, they go insane, they go ballistic, they go postal. Well, you didn't have to nerf the damage, you already nerfed this, you already nerfed that, and that is just insane to me. Like I said, I'm not going to be delving into this. I had a whole 10-minute long section of the video where I delve way deeper into this. But for the sake of my own sanity, I'm not going to be doing this, alright? And for the sake of brevity, obviously. But just know that there are people out there who are actually sad that Kaguya got nerfed. I'm not going to be going over all the screenshots that me and my friend saw, like, and took. Like, that was just so funny. But, I gotta just, you know, I gotta make this, like, short, right? It's not gonna be short, the video's already incredibly long, but I just have to address this, alright? So, yeah. Now, I've said this a billion times already, but I really don't like their way of patching broken jutsus. Like, their method basically boils down to making the cooldown longer, or increasing the chakra cost, or reducing the damage. And I feel like it's kinda, I don't know, inefficient? Like, it's like using duct tape to fix a crater. I mean, if you really look at Ashura's jutsu, it's still pretty OP. They don't address the properties of the jutsus, like the core properties that make them broken. They don't fix that. They just, you know, go, okay, let's make it so that it's not that easy to use. Which, I mean, it's not all that bad. You know, it does discourage people from using these characters, but I just feel like there's something wrong with that. I definitely feel like they should tackle the properties that made these jutsus broken in the first place. But anyway, that's beside the point. We really gotta talk about the things that are currently still broken in this game and that need to be patched ASAP. So I'll start with the broken characters and jutsus. So first up, we got Temari. Temari is currently probably the best support in the game, and I was actually flabbergasted when I saw that they didn't nerf her in the last patch. That was just so insane to me. And this is one thing that also really pisses me off. It takes them so long to nerf one character. Like, bro, it took them, like, what, 5 patches to nerf Kaguya. It takes them so long to nerf a singular character. Why not nerf all of them in one patch? I don't know what's stopping them. The people have been complaining about this for, like, months. And they had been complaining about it for months leading up to the final patch, so I have no idea why she didn't get nerfed. Her jutsu is basically multi-hit. She's got insane armor. She can just completely tear through your guard. Even with the buff, it's still, like, it's absolutely insane. The jutsu tracks, it tracks you in midair, it burns through all your subs, it just completely destroys everything. It's just hell, believe me. I'm gonna provide you with a few examples here of just how cancerous this jutsu is, so you can skip it if you don't want to look at that. So, yeah, Temari is just insane. Asuma. Asuma is currently one of the best supports in the game. Like, his second jutsu has this insane tracking. It can break your guard incredibly easily. Hits multiple times, gives your opponent so much time to do whatever the hell they want, and if you're out of subs, it's GG. Like, you can use these resets with Asuma. Like, even if you do sub, you'll probably have to do it multiple times, or your guard will break. So it's like, pick your poison. Now, like I said, they literally cannot afford to leave any stones unturned. If they nerf Temari, people will immediately resort to the next best thing, which is Asuma, so they gotta nerf him as well in the same patch. That's basically how they gotta handle this whole thing. So yeah, I'm gonna leave you with a few examples here. Well, not a few, there are a lot of examples of Asuma's jutsu being really cancer, so... And like I said, you can actually use resets with this jutsu. Well, not really resets, but you know what I mean. You'll see. Roshi. This guy is just so incredibly annoying. His first jutsu with the lava rock thing, I don't even know where to start. Like, it has priority, it destroys you, it's laughably OP, but it's not as OP as Temari or Asuma. It's up there, it's also a shield, so even if you don't fall for it, you're still gonna have a hard time, probably, like, approaching your opponent, because even if you do a switch dash, which in this game, switch dashing isn't really worth it, but even if you do that, you know, it's still not going to help you. You're still going to get hit by it. Now, admittedly, in all of these examples that I'm showing you right here, it's a skill issue. Like, I was hasty, I was playing like an idiot, so I got caught by the jutsu so many times. But the fact of the matter is, this is one of those jutsus that completely breaks the flow of the game. It kind of reminds me of Toby in Storm 4. You know how you had those players that would spam Toby's bombs and they thought it was OP and they would just run the whole match? Kind of reminds me of that. Not really, but yeah. Still, this jutsu has a workaround, it's just that it's a hassle to deal with. Now, Sage Kabuto works with almost any character in the game. He works with Borushiki, he works with Yamato, he works with anyone. Even his second jutsu is pretty... It's not that troublesome, but it can be annoying. The one with the snakes, you know, that you plant on the ground. That's kind of, like, annoying, but it's not nearly as annoying as his first jutsu. The projectile snake thing, scattering rage jutsu, whatever it's called. That jutsu, like, man, it hits you multiple times, and in this game, like I said, you can't sub sometimes, like, it just won't let you sub, so there are so many examples, so many instances where I just got completely destroyed by this jutsu, as did my friend, and there's just not a lot you can do about it. Like, it's so funny, and this is something I said, and I'll keep saying it, in this game, your support is infinitely more important than your main character, which I don't know if that's ever been the case in Storm. You've had overpowered supports, yeah, sure, but in this game, that is literally all you need. Any semblance of skill, whatever you have, no matter how good you are, it's gonna just not matter when faced against these broken jutsus. Just press one button, bro. One button, and that's it. You can also use resets with Kabuto. Again, I use the term resets kind of loosely and awkwardly because it's not really a Shuriken reset, but you know what I mean. You can see it. Now we got Borushiki. Look, Borushiki isn't really that OP. It's just that you have these clusterfucks with Borushiki's Otama Rasengan. His Otama Rasengan can hit you while you're grounded, like while you're on the ground, and you're going to be on the ground for like 5 billion years, so it gives your opponent enough time to use this jutsu. And I'm just going to leave you with a few examples here. Just check this out. One thing that really sucks about Borushiki, and it's really been getting on my nerves lately, it's the fact that his air combo doesn't work properly. This has been a thing ever since Borushiki came out. His air combo, 99% of the time, you won't be able to, convert to the ground combo. It's impossible. Sometimes it works, usually offline, but I have no idea what it depends on. Like, maybe it's the enemy's altitude, the angle, the amount of chakra, or I don't know. There's just no, like, you could try and just, end the combo and then use the air Rasengan jutsu to make sure your enemy gets... It's not gonna work, okay? It's not a viable alternative, so... I have no idea. This needs to be patched, fixed ASAP, as you can see here. Like, it's just, I cannot connect. I can't, like, I finish the air combo, and when I dash my opponent, I just can't, like, he rebounds. Like, I can't do anything. As a matter of fact, there's a high chance he might dash me, or he might counter me, so I end up in a tough spot for connecting the combo. So yeah, that definitely needs to get fixed. Another thing that needs to get fixed is Borushiki is one of those characters like Kashin Koji, who occasionally, like, he subs in the same spot. So you hit sub, And he doesn't teleport behind you, he spawns directly in front of you, which makes it so that you can hit him again, as you can see here. Shisui. Shisui is an incredibly... I mean, as a character, Shisui isn't really all that insane or anything, but he has this thing that is like a godsend for zoners. Like, it's a zoning tool. He can use one of these, you know, like Halo dance flame thingies, and he can keep you from, you know, he can keep you at bay with these. Now, of course, if you're patient, if you're not hasty like I am, you probably won't struggle with this as much, but it's still incredibly annoying. I guess one way to fix this would be to, like, I don't know, maybe increase the startup time or something, but I don't really know. It's kind of the same thing I would recommend for Roshi. My friend recently told me about Yamato and how he saw a bunch of people use Yamato, and it turns out this guy is pretty viable, especially with Sage Kabuto. Like, you know that jutsu with the planks, with the wood thingies? You can do it like this. Just look at this. Very cool. And also, he can use this kind of like it's kind of like a reset again with Sage Kabuto and with his grab, as you can see here. Now, of course, this isn't the only reason Yamato is so OP. His jutsu basically has no recovery. Like, you can cancel out of that jutsu just by walking. I'm not even joking. Like, the startup is so incredibly fast that all you gotta do is basically hold left or right or forward or backwards, like one of those keys. You just hold that during the recovery animation and you'll just cancel the attack. And this is incredibly good for counterbaiting. And this is just like, look at this. Like, you can just immediately cancel the jutsu before it even comes out, basically. It leaves no openings even after you sub the jutsu, and this makes it incredibly safe. Of course, Yamato isn't the only character with this. You have Roshi, you got Shisui, you have so many characters that have these instant recoveries that make jutsu spam so incredibly safe. So yeah, his jutsu startup is absolutely, like, not only is it blistering fast, but you can cancel it immediately. Also, he has a jail. Now, most of the characters don't have jails anymore. I don't know, like, I know Storm 3 Kakashi used to have a jail, but I don't think he has that jail anymore. But Yamato literally has a jail, and it's super effective. It can break your guard immediately. So that's another thing that definitely needs to go, like this jail that Yamato has. And finally, he has this weird reset thing. I don't know if I can call it a reset. And, like, he lands so fast to the ground from the first aerial hit that you can just work with resets. Now, this is a bad example here because Sage Kabuto isn't the best support for this particular thing that I'm trying to show you, but you get the point. You need a support that can stun. Someone like Sai, for example, would be ideal. But you get the point. Like, it's so fast that you don't even need to dash to convert. You can just land on the ground and continue to mash and juggle your opponent. Like, it's that fast. Like, from the first hit of his air combo to the ground. So yeah, it turns out Yamato is a pretty viable character, even though dash cuts aren't really what they used to be in this game, thankfully. Okay, moving on. DMS Kakashi. This guy, I feel like he needs to be nerfed even further, because I still think that he's, you know, kind of, I don't know, man. I just can't help but feel like he's a little, you know, the fact that his jutsu is unblockable, it can be kind of problematic. And finally, we have puppets, or puppet masters. Now, puppet masters are busted as hell in this game, and I don't even know where to start. So, I did talk briefly about the lightning kunai glitch, but that got nerfed. Like, hallelujah, right? But we still have so many things to deal with when it comes to puppets. So if you're using a puppet character and you get countered, and the moment you get countered, you spark dash, like you turbo dash, what's going to happen is the counter will be neutralized, and you can just continue hitting your opponent as if nothing happened. So counters, you can basically say that puppets are immune to counters. Clearly, this is a glitch, and it needs to be addressed ASAP. I cannot stress how immediate this needs to be. This is absolutely insane. Just take a look at this. So like I said, all you gotta do is turbo dash, or well, spark dash when you get countered. The timing isn't even all that strict, honestly, so yeah. Now, there's another thing with puppets. There are a lot of things, but yeah, so let's say you're guarding with the puppets, right? And I am mashing you. I'm trying to break your guard. So you can do this thing where you mash the Shuriken button and counter while you're getting comboed, while you're getting pressured, and what's going to happen is this random Shuriken will appear from behind me and interrupt my combo, and if I try to continue the combo, you can simply counter me. And that is obviously a glitch. So imagine, like, you're guarding, and I got you cornered, and now I'm trying to apply pressure, I'm trying to break your guard, I'm comboing you, and all you gotta do is mash Shuriken and counter, and my combo will get interrupted. And if I continue the combo, well, you can counter me. So it's an Uno reverse, basically. And obviously this isn't skill-based, it doesn't have anything to do with skill, but people will basically defend this with their lives. The puppet community in this game especially is absolutely... I'm not going to waste my breath on that, alright? We're not talking about that. But believe it or not, some people consider this to be skill, alright? This random mashing. Like, I don't know. So, yeah, that's absolutely insane to me. Just look at all this. Now, if I'm in the middle of the puppet master and his puppet, and I air dash, and he dashes as well, what's going to happen is we'll get into this little clash, quote-unquote. Like, I'll get deflected, because the puppet master has this dash hitbox. And this is obviously a new glitch, because this did not used to be a thing back in Storm 4, because the puppet master would simply get hit. But now, if I air dash you, and, you know, you're using a puppet master, you dash me at the same time, we're kind of gonna clash. You know, it's kind of... Yeah, look, just look. And, of course, they also have these dash cancels that are incredibly cheap, and they look so goofy. and they are a godsend for baiting counters. Like, look at this. And this is, like, not mentioning all the crazy jutsus these puppet masters have at their disposal. And add to that, characters like Temari, or I don't even know, any good support, Asuma, then you got a recipe for disaster. Because you don't even need good team synergy when you're using puppets, honestly. One thing that really pisses me off is Kawashiki's ultimate not connecting 40 to 50% of the time. It depends. I don't know what it depends on, but sometimes I can connect the ultimate no problem after the crumble state infinite, but sometimes he just dashes past the opponent and that's it. Like, look at this. Like, look at the example, and this is just one example that I was able to record. This has happened at least 5 times to me. Now, one way to circumvent this, one way to fix this would be to, like, take a step back and then use the ultimate, because gaining some distance might help with the tracking. But this shouldn't be a solution. Like, as you can see here, my opponent's health was almost gone. One ultimate, and I would have won. I would have literally won this round. But because the ultimate failed, I lost. So, very cool stuff. I don't know how they managed to screw this up. And I noticed that this can also happen with Isshiki. Like, this can also happen with Isshiki. I don't know how you can screw up the tracking of an ultimate jutsu. I just don't understand it, but alright, whatever. So, that's basically Kawashiki's ultimate. It's glitched, so I hope they actually fix that. Now let's talk about the mechanical changes that we need to see in this game. Like, you know, fixes and nerfs. First of all, this isn't really a mechanical thing per se, but subs not registering is a huge issue in this game, and it's been present since launch, and there's no fix in sight. Like, the game simply refuses to respond to your inputs. And it's not just subs, by the way. I mean, it's mostly subs, but sometimes it's dashes. Now, do you have any idea how many matches I've lost because of this? At least 50. I'm actually probably lowballing in here. And the same goes for my friend. Like, it makes you feel so dumb because you clearly have every sub, you got all the subs, and you're not using them, so that might give the other player the impression that you're just slow, when that's not the case. I am literally mashing sub every millisecond, but nothing. Now, this needs to be fixed, and I don't know how or why they managed to fuck this up in the first place, but yeah, you know, get your shit together, CC2. This is absolutely insane. I don't know how this still hasn't been fixed. And you got people complaining about this out the wazoo, so I have no idea what they're waiting for. And now, arguably the most important part of this video, counters. And awakenings, I guess. Now, as you guys already know, I've never really been a huge fan of counters in Storm. Now, I'm not saying they should be removed just because I have an aggressive playstyle and doesn't suit me. That would be biased. But I think they should be balanced. Back in Storm Revolution, when counters were introduced, they were absolutely absurd. Like, it was insanely abusive. And even in Storm 4, I felt like it was kind of cheap, you know? It wasn't that bad, but I was never really fond of it. But in this game, oh boy, you know, in Storm Evo, they actually fixed this issue. They made it so that counters have 8 active frames. Well, the new patch for Storm Evo made it so that it's 10, but in Storm Connections, you have 12 active frames for counters. To put that in perspective, DMC 5's Royal Guard has a 6-frame window. A single-player game has a stricter, like, this is not supposed to be a balanced game, it doesn't have online competitive play, and this game has a more balanced countering system than Storm Connections. So you could just wait it out and dash your opponent, and you'll, you know, chances are you'll still be caught by the counter. But that's not the worst of it. The problem with the counter is that you can use them infinitely. There is no limit. Back in Storm 4, you could only use 3 counters in a row before your chakra would deplete to the point where you wouldn't be able to counter anymore, and then you would have to wait. In this game, countering is so free. As a matter of fact, I'd argue it's encouraged. Countering is supposed to be a risk-reward system. It's supposed to be this mechanic that rewards you for being able to read your opponent's moves. You know, you can predict things, you got the reads. But in this game, you can just stand still and counter like a moron, and chances are you still will manage to catch the opponent. Not to mention, in Storm 4 and Storm Evo, when you get countered, you get sent flying. In this game, you get stunned, so it's kind of like it was in Storm Revolution, which to me is absolutely insane. At first, I really hated this, then I was like, okay, I get it. It was done for the sake of speed, they don't want to waste time. But now, once again, I'm like, this is absolutely brain dead. Counters should not be this rewarding. If you have no subs and you get countered, it's over. And subs in this game, you already know how problematic they can be as a resource. So, if it were up to me, I would make it so that counters are, once again, you know, you can only use them 3 times in a row. As a matter of fact, I would make the cooldown much, much slower, because you have no idea how much people abuse counters in this game. So counters need to be limited to at least 3 in a row. They need to cost Chakra, and if it were up to me, I would also make it so that they have like 8 or 9 active frames, not 12. Keep in mind, Playco and Exact and Ace, they said how, you know, the guys that are basically making Storm Evo, they said how Storm Connections, you know, the counters are like 12 frames. And, you know, when I try to count the frames, it was way more than 12. Now, I don't know, I'm not an expert here. I'm not sure how frame counting works exactly, but maybe they did it in 30 FPS, but I highly doubt that, because Evo was 60 FPS, so, but yeah, it was more than 12 frames. Let me show you, actually. So here you can see how Delta, you know, Yamato gets countered, even though he waited, he charged his dash, and he still got countered. So let's see how many frames that is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So the 20th frame of the counter is what ended up countering Yamato in this case. Now let's look at this scenario. Here you can see how my Momoshiki got countered by PTS Naruto, and let's count the frames. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20... Yeah, so the 19th or 20th frame, once again, was what countered me here. So, I'm not sure what they mean by counters or 12 frames. I guess I'm not getting it, because, I mean, I'm sure they're right, but maybe frames aren't counted like this. Maybe it's, like, different for some reason. I have no idea. All I know is, no matter how you look at it, counters have way too many active frames. And, I mean, I guess I would make it so that they don't stun you, but they kind of send you flying, like in Storm Evo. I think that would just be incredible. I think counters right now, you know, countering infinitely without any repercussions is a recipe for disaster. It just welcomes and encourages so many of these toxic zoner playstyles. And in delay, it's even worse. So I think the counters need to be nerfed. And I'm not the only person who has proposed this. A lot of advanced players have also complained about counters in this game. So I think counters should be the first on the list of priorities when it comes to the mechanical changes in this game. Now we gotta talk about Awakenings. I said this before and I'll say it again, but Awakenings in this game need to be limited to once per match. Not once per round. I think that is too lenient, but once per match. Awakenings, oh my god. I've never been fond of Awakenings at all. I think it's a cool concept for, like, offline play, but online, I basically watched every advanced Storm 4 tournament, you know, hosted by E and all that, and every single time I feel like the momentum gets completely ruined by Awakenings. Like, you could be leading, you could have, like, 100% of your health, like, all HP, and your opponent can have, like, no HP, and they make a comeback, zombie mode because they go awakening with Danzo or Six Paths Madara, or you already know. And I always felt like that was so cheap and so stupid. And in this game, awakenings aren't like 30 something seconds, they're 16 seconds, which is a huge nerf, but it doesn't matter because you could argue that awakenings are stronger than ever. A-Gate's Guy, Isshiki being immune to all projectiles. And, obviously you'll have these people coping by saying, well, actually, it's a skill issue. You shouldn't let them awaken in the first place. Look, that was bullshit even back in Storm 4, but in this game, it's even more bullshit because you can counter into awakening. In Storm 4, you could pressure your opponent to counter. Like, you can pressure them and force them to counter, and then they wouldn't be able to awaken. They would have to wait, and this would give you more time. In Storm Connections, you can use a counter and awaken in your opponent's face, which is the most insulting shit ever. My friend, the advanced player guy, he absolutely despises this. It is so incredibly stupid. And yeah, awakenings, I feel, should be limited to once per match. They are simply too OP. There were so many examples where my friend is just beating my ass, and I go awakening, and I just, completely flip the script. And vice versa, he does the same to me. That is so incredibly cheap and so incredibly stupid. Either just completely limit awakenings, or make it so that, they don't have as much priority or something. Make it so they're not that OP. Because as it stands, they are very, very hacks. Now, Switch is completely ruined in this game. It's a tragedy what they've done to Switch. Switch tech is basically non-existent in this game. It does kind of exist. You can use jutsu buffers and, switch dashes and all, but it's just not worth it. It simply isn't. It doesn't get you anywhere. Even though they try to make it so that you can switch more easily if you have one support, it's still not nearly as viable as it was in Storm 4. And I think, I said this a billion times, but Switch tech is really great. It elevated Storm 4 to this insanely high level of play, but unfortunately not a lot of people seem to share that sentiment, and CC2 themselves don't seem to feel that way. They probably look at Switch tech in Storm 4 as this unintentional exploit, like an accident that was never meant to be in the game. Now, I think it would make the game a lot more fun, but yeah, unfortunately, I don't think Switch tech making a comeback is in the cards, and I think they've made their stance crystal clear. I think this was their vision from the get-go, from day one, and that Storm 4 was this mishap, this happy little accident that they probably consider a glitch, so yeah. And because of this, I feel like this is one of the major reasons why advanced players will never accept this game or prefer it over Storm 4, for this very reason, because it's simply not as fun to play, and it's not as fun to watch. It is way too streamlined. And look, I don't like people who want a game to be difficult. There's no need to gatekeep mechanics, like accessibility is a good thing, but this game only allows one play style, and that's spamming supports, and that is just egregious beyond belief. Now, I want to talk about other things regarding Storm and the Storm community, but before I actually start talking about that, I feel like I should address a few things, namely why this game flopped. Now, I feel like there are multiple factors that contributed to Storm Connections' failure, so I'm going to be going into these 4 or 5 or 6 major reasons, and first on the chopping block is the marketing, or well, lack thereof. So this game basically had zero advertising. I had never seen worse marketing for anything in my life. I remember for Storm 4 and Revolution and Storm 3 and every other Storm game, we'd have tons of trailers, those V-Jump magazine reveals, all those scans that we would eagerly anticipate, for the new character reveals and all. These games were alive. There was stuff to look forward to, but with Storm Connections, it's like none of that was a thing. I vividly remember getting 4 scans back to back, like 4 scans in succession, and they were all about Indra and Ashura being playable characters. It was so bad, in fact, that a lot of people were under the impression that this game was just Storm 4 with Indra and Ashura as the only new playable characters. And I remember thinking to myself, wow, these people are insane. But in hindsight, I can't really blame them. Like, the developers did nothing to reassure them of the contrary. Like, the first trailer for this game was literally just showcasing Storm 1, 2, 3, and 4 story mode and, like, Storm 2 characters and stages. Like, and then at the very end of the trailer, they showcased Indra and Ashura. And then the next trailer quite literally showed us nothing but characters from Storm 2, 3, Generations, characters that are, as of me recording this video, over 15 years old. Some even 17, because Storm 1 came out in 2008. So Storm 2 came out in 2010. Yeah, so basically, basically that's absolutely insane. So they shamelessly and proudly showcase these characters in their trailer, presenting them as new characters. They didn't even receive a single update. They still have the same dated movesets with horrible cinematic finishers like, Jiraiya, Orochimaru, Itachi. Like, the least they could have done was give them new ultimates and maybe new grabs and new cinematic finishers, but nah, that would be too much work. Because, their whole thing was, oh wow, look at how many characters you can play as in this game. Disregard the fact that all of these characters are more than 15 years old. Like, they literally treated longtime fans of the series as complete idiots. This whole game was tailored towards newcomers and casuals. Like, they even introduced this, simple controls thing in a game like Storm, where you have to mash a few buttons. They introduced simple controls. But like, this isn't Mortal Kombat or Tekken or Street Fighter. Why on earth would we need simple controls in a Storm game? But anyway, I digress. So we got a few more trailers after that, and it was mostly just random videos showcasing some of the new characters, but we didn't even know what mechanical changes were present in the game at the time. Like, CC2 never revealed that to us. Had it not been for a few advanced players like Falco that attended Anime Expo and Jump Festa and all these other gaming conventions, we would have been in the dark until the game's final release. Like, we would not have known what the mechanical changes were. The marketing was so atrocious that most people didn't even know when the game was coming out. Now, the second reason why the game failed was the lack of a story mode. Now, believe it or not, a lot of the people who play Storm are Naruto fans, and they were expecting a Boruto story mode. They were probably expecting the Momoshiki fight, the Jigen fight, the Boro fight, the Isshiki fight, the Code fight. A lot of people were expecting this game to be a canon game that would adapt the Boruto anime from start to finish. But instead, we got this original filler story mode. Now, I will give credit where it's due. The story mode is done pretty well, but at the end of the day, it's still filler, and not a lot of people care about it. The third reason, though, I guess you could say that the story mode also falls under this category, is the overall lack of content. So Storm 4 came out in February of 2016, and we waited nearly 8 years for this new Storm game, and what we got was a half-baked product with no canon story mode, only 3 new stages, none of which were canon, and 10 new playable characters. 10. 10. 10, 10. Like, let that sink in. 8 years, nearly a decade of waiting for 10 new playable characters and 5 more as DLC. And honestly, the DLC characters we got, they should have been in the base game. Like, that and Kunai should have been playable since Storm 1. But anyway, I digress. So they gave us Toneri in this story mode, so they have the model for Toneri, but they didn't bother to make him playable. Like, Toneri, the guy who should have been playable back in Storm 4. They gave us the last Naruto Sasuke Hanabi, but not the main villain. Wow, no adult Konohamaru either, not in the base game. Not even as a DLC in Season 1. So you get no canon story mode, only 10 new playable characters, and 3 new filler stages after 8 years. This, in conjunction with the horrible marketing of the game, yeah, you can kind of understand why the game was received the way it was. People just felt like it wasn't worth it. I mean, the game simply lacked content. Most people felt like the juice wasn't worth the squeeze. Like, why pay $60 to play the same game actually downgraded. So most people just stuck to Storm 4. But wait, we're not even scratching the surface. This is just the tip of the iceberg. Now, one thing that also pissed a lot of people off was the English dub. Now, there's a lot of speculation that most of the voices in the game are AI. Now, I'm not going to be making any accusations, but in my previous video, I provided a lot of examples. Like, the voices sound uncanny, robotic. In Portuguese, you literally have a robot, like Google Translate, like Microsoft Sam or something. Now, I personally play this game in Japanese, so this didn't really bother me as much, but a lot of people were thrown off by this. And I don't even know why they did that. Like, they changed literally every voice line. In Storm 4, the English dub was pretty good, so I don't know why they felt the need to ruin every voice. They even changed the voice actors. Like, Pain is no longer voiced by Troy Baker. It's some random guy, so I don't know what the hell they were thinking, honestly. Now, another reason why this game flopped was the launch, and this might be the biggest reason of all. So when this game came out, for whatever godforsaken reason, it didn't have custom online. So you could not play your friends, you could only play randoms. And also, if you made a lobby and somebody joined, you couldn't kick that person out of the lobby. You would either have to leave the game, like Alt F4, or fight that person against your will. Now, most people who play Storm play it with their friends. Now, imagine paying $60 for a game and you can't even play your friends. Like, that was simply uncalled for. And that's not even the worst of it, because me and my friend play this game on PC, and every time I would win, my win ratio would go up, my ELO, if you will. So when that happened, my friend would no longer be able to play me because every time he would search for a match, he wouldn't be able to find me because his win ratio was lower than mine. And that was just insane. So what we had to do every time when we played this game was we had to reset our save files. We had backup saves where, we both had 0 matches, 0 wins, and we were both equal. So that was the only way we could find each other when searching for a match online. Now keep in mind, this was only possible on PC. On consoles, that was not an option. Like, you can't really change your save file. I feel like this drove so many people away, and that's not even the worst of it. Like, not only was there no custom online, but it took them until February to finally patch this. So the game came out on the 17th of November, they patched this on the 28th of January, 2.5 months later, and by that point, the majority of the player base had already left. And to add insult to injury, custom lobbies were now glitched. Like, yeah, they were a thing, you could play your friends now, but if the lobby had more than 3 to 4 people, it would crash constantly. And even if there were only 2 people in the lobby, it would frequently desync, it would crash. This happened to me and my friends so many times, and even to this day, it tends to happen. Just not nearly as frequently. And from what I've heard, endless lobbies, like endless, it's still glitched. So if you want to have multiple people in the lobby, chances are the lobby will crash. Wow. The most important thing in a fighting game is not available for 3 months post-release, and then it becomes available and it doesn't work properly. I have no words. I am just appalled. And how they decided to release this game in this deplorable state is just beyond me. But this was not the final nail in the coffin, I'd say. So, another potential reason is that Storm has become way too dated. Or not dated, but rather the concept itself is kind of overused. The formula has been the same since 2008, since Storm 1, and obviously they always add new mechanics, the game feels different, it's faster, but at its core, it's still the same game. It's still the same engine, it's the same exact graphics, it's the same exact stages, characters, everything. It's like playing Storm 1, it's a 17-year-old game. Now, people were saying how this game was a DLC for Storm 4, but you could make the argument that every Storm game is a DLC for Storm 1. Because there are always changes to the mechanics, but at its core, it's kind of the same game. But not really. But kinda, Especially to somebody who doesn't play this game religiously. Like, if you show them Storm 1 and Storm Connection side by side, they probably won't be able to tell the difference. It's not until you actually play the game and feel it for yourself that you'll be able to notice a difference. So maybe that is why this game underperformed. And maybe, you know what? Maybe the game would have underperformed no matter what they did. Because, people are simply tired of seeing the Storm formula and the same engine with the same graphics. But I'm gonna be honest, I don't mind it. I personally don't mind Storm being Storm forever, even though a lot of people seem to be expecting a major mechanical overhaul. I don't really mind that. I do agree that it is kind of dated and it gets boring, but it's still way better than 99% of, well, the most arena fighting games ever, which is just so sad. Now, another reason, and I guess this is the meat and potatoes of the whole thing, is the gameplay, because, all the changes pertain to the gameplay. So, as you guys already know, this is a streamlined, downgraded version of Storm 4 in almost every way. And honestly, in this game, if you're not using, or well, if you are using a character that isn't S tier, it's GG. Because you don't have a choice. You don't have to be an advanced player to realize how brainless this game is. And it's kind of depressing, but I feel like compared to Sparking Zero, it can be fixed at least a little. Like, I feel like they have been on a somewhat decent trajectory with these latest updates. And I said this before, but I feel like this game is way too fast for its own good. And I don't know why, but this seems to be a trend with every modern game. They glamorize speed at the expense of everything else. Everything in the game is about speed. Everything is made so that the matches are as short as possible. The reason why guards break so easily is so that you can easily inflict damage and end the match ASAP. The fact that Chakra regenerates on its own is so that you wouldn't have to stand still all the time and waste time charging it. The reason resets used to be a thing was so that you could inflict as much damage as possible, as easily as possible, by throwing a shuriken, even though it rendered damage scaling completely useless. Not to mention the damage scaling in Storm as a concept is very weird and doesn't really fit. The fact that counters no longer blow you away but stun you like they did in Revo, forcing you to sub or get killed. The fact that subs don't regenerate when you're getting hit. You're forced to take damage so that everything can end as fast as possible. The speed pill acting as a mini awakening, turning you into Sonic. Everything in this game, if you really stop to think about it, every change in this game was made for the sake of speed. And it's all about speed. Balance, perish the thought. We don't care about that. We care about the speed. Like, there's so many instances in this game where me and my friend are playing the game and my friend is like, man, I don't even know what the hell is going on. I don't even know. Like, I can't even react in time because the game is that fast and these jutsus are so flashy. Keep in mind, we play using one support, which is way better than playing like 3-man teams, which is how most people play this game. With 3-man teams, there's a jutsu every second. Every second there's a jutsu. There are 2 jutsus. You got 6 jutsus on the screen flying everywhere. You can't even see what's going on. That is just insane. But it is also, ironically enough, one of the main reasons why I play this game. Because, for example, Storm Evo is the perfect Storm, but it's not nearly as fast as Storm Connections, and it's because they actually made it so that the 60 FPS is balanced. Because I don't know who said this. I think it was Ace, the modder in charge of Storm Connections. I think he said how the 60 FPS in Storm Connections is actually broken. It was never meant to be that fast. So Storm Evo actually fixed that. But honestly, the only thing that kind of carries Connections is this insane speed, even though it's at the expense of everything else, which is just sad. Anyway, the game's current state still leaves a lot to be desired, but unfortunately at this point, I don't think anyone gives a rat's ass about this game. Like, the ship has already sailed, most people just don't care anymore, and the game kind of cemented its position as a flop from the very first trailer, and the advertising, or well, lack thereof, further contributed to that, and then they topped it off with that horrendous launch, with the lack of support. Like, they really shit the bed. They really shot themselves in the foot every step of the way, with every decision they made. I don't know. Now I want to talk about the Storm community, and I think the Storm community has never been worse when it comes to toxicity and all that. So it's very hard to define the Storm fan base or the Storm community because you got so many different types of people. You got casuals, you got newcomers, you got veterans, pros, spammers, and everyone has their own vision of what the game should be. Even among the advanced players, there's a huge disparity between what they think they should fix or add and what they should remove. So the community hasn't really unanimously agreed on anything. Nobody democratically said, yes, this has to go. And this only makes things even more cumbersome because CC2 has no idea what to zero in on. Then they receive all these mixed signals, all these mixed responses on their surveys, where the majority who took the survey says, well, we think the game is great now after the first patch, and then CC2 gets the wrong idea. And then they look at all these famous YouTubers who aren't exactly qualified to even talk about Storm, and they see the comments section, and they see people discussing the AI dub, and stuff like, I don't know, the English dub being weird, or Sasuke's Mangekyo missing in his eye, and not addressing the real issues. So this disconnect between the company and its players is honestly to be expected when there's a disconnect within the community itself. Like, they don't know who to listen to. And I've even seen advanced players argue amongst themselves about how awakenings should be handled, and other stuff like that. Like, some people don't want to see it go because they rely on it more than others. You can't just have a council that will democratically decide what's good for the game and what isn't. I've seen these polls on Twitter and on Discord servers, but I don't think that will yield anything unless CC2 sees the results. And even then, it most likely wouldn't bear any fruit because, well, it's CC2. So you got so many different people in the community, and every single person is convinced, like they are convinced that they know what's best for the game. And that's usually something that benefits their own playstyle. So they lack objectivity. Let me tell you something. There's a Storm Discord server, and I'm in that server, and I made, like last time, when I made that nearly 4-hour-long rant on the game, my friend, the advanced player, he shared the video there. And, I was kind of skeptical at first. I thought it was going to be met with a lot of backlash, but most people didn't really care. However, some people actually saw parts of the video. I doubt anybody watched the whole thing. And, well, actually some of them did, but So, they didn't address any of the points I made regarding broken jutsus and glitches and mechanical nerfs and all that. No, instead, they focused on this 20-second, like literally a 20-second log segment in the video where I said how infinite combos in this game are more accessible and more intuitive than they've ever been. And because I said that, they called me a casual. I mean, classic, right? But honestly, they are. Like, infinite combos were really easy in Storm 4 as well, but now they are 50 billion times easier because you don't have to look up a guide, you don't have to know anything, you just see this giant, like, you hear this sound, you see the crumble animation, and you know when to stop. Like, they're so much easier now. I don't know how you can argue with this. But, you already know the Storm community. Like, it's full of idiots. In other words, the sky is blue. But, sometimes I can't tell if this community is baiting or if all these statements are just literally their unfiltered dogshit opinion. Like, it's absolutely insane. There's this guy, he's kind of made a name for himself in the community. He makes Naruto videos, and he unironically said, I'm not joking right now, like, this is a pretty famous guy in the community, he said how the game was more fun at launch with all the broken stuff because it allowed for interesting setups or whatever. When you got people like that in the community, and this isn't some complete random, this is a person that's known within the community, when you got people like that making these types of statements, obviously I don't need to tell you that the game is, like, currently the game is in the best state it's ever been in. Like, the game actually should have been released in this state. Unfortunately, it took them way too long. And yeah, it's got a ways to go, but to say that the game was better and more fun at launch, this is a statement you would expect from somebody who just, brainlessly, mindlessly spams jutsus like, Edo Minato and Pain and stuff like that. Like, to make this statement, as a YouTuber, as somebody who really, who should be rational, that is just insane to me. But like I said, people are just biased in this community. If somebody spams counters, they'll think, oh, we need more counters, less cooldowns for counters, that would be a godsend. But people who play aggressively will want counters completely removed. Everybody has their own vision of what the game should be, and it's all subjective, but no one's thinking rationally and keeping balance in mind. They only want to see changes that will benefit their own playstyle. There's no middle ground. And I know some people who are really bad at switching, right? And they want switch completely removed from the game because they can't use it. Even in this game where switch is completely crippled, they think it's way too OP because they can't use it. And usually the people who say this, who want these extreme changes, like, we want counters removed, we want switch removed, no, we want awakenings to be 2 minutes long, usually they're complete casuals. And honestly, I don't even think they should have a say in the matter when it comes to the mechanical changes of the game. So yeah. So, you got casuals who are more concerned with Hinata not having veins on her eyes, and her team ultimate with Kiba and Shino, and AI dub, and Sasuke's Mangekyo not appearing in his awakening animation, or the clouds not being purple in Jigen's ultimate in the dimension. You got people who want obscure, filler-ass characters in the game. You got advanced players who would rather play a 9-year-old game at 30 FPS with ancient characters. You got sparking players who are hating on Storm. You got people who don't want to buy this game because it has no story. You got random people who don't even play this game talking about how it's repetitive and boring, and they want a Naruto Fighters or character creation or an open world JRPG Naruto game. You got toxic idiots who want to ruin the game for everybody else and benefit their own playstyle at the expense of everybody else's fun. And now throw CC2's lack of decision making and giving a fuck into the mix, and you've got yourself a recipe for disaster. Now, like I said, I feel like this video is it's gonna offend literally every group of people because people disagree with me on the characters, on the nerfs, customization, free roam, 2D fighters, everything. Storm being better than Sparking, the casuals, the advanced players, like everybody. And I've also seen a lot of negative comments about Storm in general made by members of the Storm community. And while I do realize that we're all dissatisfied and we all have the right to be mad and disappointed and we have the right to vocalize that, I can't help but feel like some people simply want this game to fail. Like, I've seen so many comments saying shit like, it's over, there's no way we're getting a season 2 for this garbage, no, nothing, it's over for this game, it's over for Storm, fuck Storm. It's like, you're a Storm player, you hate Storm more than any other person. It's absolutely insane. At least in Sparking, they glaze their terrible ass game. They go to war for that shit. In the Storm community, it's like, yeah, this game sucks. And while I do agree and I get where they're coming from, sometimes I feel like it's just cringe. Now, CC2 actually made a new Twitter account and a post under which they want fans to post requests. Like, they probably got tired of everyone spamming Matsuyama on his official account under every post, so they made an account specifically dedicated to requests. And guess what? There are like 1,000 comments, and most of them are complaints about trivial shit like, fix the English dub, or shit like, the sky is not purple in Jigen's ultimate in the dimension. Like, bro, there are way more pressing issues for them to zero in on than this. Like, Sasuke doesn't have his Mangekyo visible in his awakening, like Taka Sasuke. Hinata doesn't have her Byakugan veins during her team ultimate with Kiba and Shino, which nobody uses. Now look, don't get the wrong idea. I'm not saying that this shouldn't be fixed, but it doesn't take priority. There's so many normies complaining about frivolous shit, or talking about character customization being limited, or character creation not being a thing. I swear to God, there's so many of these normies just asking dumb shit, instead of collectively being vocal about the important stuff that caused this game to fail in the first place, like the gameplay issues. You know, sometimes I feel like we've been barking up the wrong tree. Like, maybe it's not all CC2's fault. Maybe Bandai is the main culprit. Like, maybe the hate's kind of unwarranted. But even if that is the case, it doesn't really invalidate any of our complaints. And, we all have the right to be mad because the game did flop at the end of the day. But at least they're trying, desperate as it may be. But, maybe you could argue that the game is ass because Bandai rushed CC2 when they gave him a really strict deadline, and they simply didn't have enough time to work on the game. Because apparently the game was never planned. It was made so that, it was made to commemorate Naruto's 20-year anniversary. So Bandai not giving CC2 enough time to work on the game might be an extenuating circumstance as to why the game turned out so ass. Now, I know I've already talked about this in my previous video, but I really feel like I ought to mention Storm Evo again. So, Storm Evo is a mod for Storm 4 that works in 60 FPS. It's completely fixed. It's not glitched like vanilla Storm 4. And it also has every Storm 1 character. It's got Storm 3 MS Sasuke. It's got every Storm Connections character and other mechanical fixes. It's basically the perfect version of Storm. Like, nearly every issue that Storm 4 had is fixed. And there are so many unique costumes that are available. They brought back so many missing sound effects. Like when Sasuke puts his sword back in his sheath, you can hear the sound now, the clicking sound. They brought back all of the stages, even the ones that weren't playable, that were only story mode exclusive. Like, I'm not exaggerating when I say that Storm Evo is better than any Storm CC2 have ever given us. And it was all done by, like, one modder. Okay, I mean, it wasn't one guy. Like, he used resources from various other modders, but you get the point. And Playco was the one calling the shots. So, while it is a mod, Evo is, for all intents and purposes, a new game, because it feels completely different from vanilla Storm 4, and it just feels like it has so much quality. You might think that it's just Storm 4 with extra steps, but that's not even remotely the case. Like I said, it's got so many improvements, and I definitely think it's worth checking out, especially if you're an advanced player and you rely on Switch tech excessively. Now, all those patches I went over in the first section of this video? Yeah, so there have been a few surveys, 2 to 3 surveys that CC2 gave us to fill in, and they basically asked the players what changes they want to see, like fixes, patches, what we want, like which characters need to be buffed, nerfed, what jutsus, all, this and that. And I will give credit, they did listen for the most part. I mean, sure, the game's got a long way to go, but I don't think I've ever seen CC2 be this receptive and this responsive to our demands and complaints. And I really hope they keep this up. But the sad reality is, though, the patches so far have barely served to make the game somewhat more playable. Not competitive, but playable. And that's just really sad. And another major issue here is that they work at a glacial pace. Still, it took them 5 patches to nerf Kaguya. It took them 4 patches to remove resets. All of these changes could have and should have been implemented in the first patch. No, actually, if it were up to me, it should have been implemented at launch, but, the players were very vocal about all of these things, but no dice. Temari has been a problem since forever, and she still hasn't been patched. And another issue is that they just overlook so many of these OP jutsus and these hacks characters. Like, for example, when they nerfed Pain's Shinra Tensei, people immediately switched to Ashura. When Ashura got nerfed, people switched to Hagoromo. When he got nerfed, everybody switched to Temari, DMS Kakashi, Asuma, and this is what I keep talking about. This is what I keep saying. People will always resort to the next best thing. You cannot afford the luxury of leaving anything out. You cannot leave any stones unturned. You gotta nerf multiple characters in one patch. Because at this rate, Temari will be nerfed next, and then Asuma will be nerfed in 2026. I don't even know. Like, this is really annoying. Like, I don't know what's taking them so long to nerf just a couple of things. But oh well. Still, regardless, you cannot deny that this current version of the game is the best one. And anyone who says otherwise is trolling. Because like I said, believe it or not, there are people who genuinely believe that the game was more fun at launch than it is right now. And you have people who want Jutsu armors back. You have people who want resets back. People who want Kaguya back. You have people who want instant awakenings in this game. I'm done, alright? Like, I have nothing to say. Like, and this all just goes back to what I've been saying. Everyone in this community thinks they know what's best. They think they know how to make the game great again, you know? And there are so many conflicting views that it's impossible to get to the bottom of the whole thing. And honestly, who knows? Maybe in CC2's eyes, this really is the perfect storm. I mean, that might very well be the case because they really are that delusional. I wouldn't be surprised. And they clearly have their own vision of what this game should be. They said how this game in particular was tailored to casual players and newcomers. And this was in spite of the fact that the advanced player community was what kept Storm 4 afloat in their stead for years. Like, they literally said, we're aware that there are advanced players, there is a competitive scene, but this game is for casual Naruto fans. It was just the biggest middle finger to everybody, I swear to God. So CC2's vision of the game is most likely at odds with the fans and, you know, the players' vision, but you know, since the fans themselves are divided and have no idea what the fuck they want, that only encumbers things even more. The current state of affairs is just kind of sad, honestly. You know, he used to host all these first to 10s and all these Storm 4 tournaments, and now it's just radio silence. Well, I mean, not really. He does host connection tournaments and, you know, connection streams and all that, but it just ain't it. It's not the same as it was with Storm 4. Because, you know, this game isn't that exciting to watch. It's actually less exciting to watch than it is to play. And it's not exciting to play, so, you know. And even E himself said so, right? Like, it's just kind of soulless. I mean, I still tune in from time to time, but, you know. And you want to know what the bitch of it is? No one even acknowledged this game's existence during the 1-year anniversary. Not Bandai, not CC2, not Naruto video games, no one. Which is just simply absurd to me. This level of disregard. I mean, you know, this... I don't know, man. The statistics speak for themselves, and if there's one thing they indicate, it's that the game has fewer players than ever. And, I mean, look, I know that Steam is the least populous platform, but still, the fact of the matter is, more people are currently playing Storm 4 than Connections. And you know what? Sometimes I feel like if Connections had released in the most perfect state and it's sold incredibly well, I feel like CC2 wouldn't have bothered with any of the patches or the updates. Maybe if the game had sold well, you know, they would have been like, oh, well, we got our money, we secure the bag, fuck you. The same thing they did with Storm 4, basically, how they abandoned that game. But maybe this is like a silver lining, you know, like the game did poorly, it underperformed, and they're like, these patches are their form of damage control. Oh god, this game really flopped, we gotta get the players back, and the only way to do that is A, content, and B, patches, you know, balance patches. But I feel like it's kind of too late at this point because the game cemented its position as a flop. There are just so many oversights, and I know I brought this up earlier, but some people actually prefer the gameplay of Connections over Storm 4. Now, of course, most of these people, they're casuals, but it definitely seems that the gameplay changes aren't what resulted in this game's downfall. It was this series of horrible decisions like the marketing, the lack of a story mode, no custom online at launch, not enough content, this reused formula, recycled, not updated characters, and all that. So there were so many things, and honestly, even if Connections was the most mechanically perfect Storm ever, like Storm Evo 2.0, I still feel like most people would still be hating on the game for the aforementioned reasons. You know, because it's a reused formula, we're sick of Storm. And, you know, in hindsight, maybe CC2 really should have released an expansion pack for Storm 4 and just continued supporting that game indefinitely. But since that ship has sailed, the least they can try to do right now is right their wrong by, patching connections and releasing more characters and more content. And Storm Evo actually proves that having a balanced Storm game is, in fact, possible. And that just makes it all the more frustrating when we see all these changes, all these things being left broken, CC2 not really caring, the community being in shambles. Like, if we only need, like, a couple of guys running the whole thing, because, like I said, Storm Evo was run by Playco and a few modders, and they make all these changes. And they made the perfect Storm game. I mean, I'm not saying perfect, because, you know, but, the best version of Storm that I've seen. So, I don't, like, yeah, a few people can make a better Storm game than a whole-ass company. I'll talk about Sparking Zero later, but that community is incredibly toxic. It's really bad. And you got tons of these people who, like, they love using the argument, like, this game was never meant to be balanced. Budokai Tenkaichi 3 wasn't balanced either. The developers even said they went out of their way to say this game is not meant to be a competitive title. Budokai Tenkaichi 3 was way more balanced, and that was an offline game. This is an online game that has ranked, that has tournaments. You have a responsibility to make the game balanced, at least a little, right? But here's the thing, a lot of these people, not only do they not want this game to be touched, they actively go out of their way to make the game worse. Whenever something does get patched, something that was clearly a glitch, like Yajirobe, they go, no, why? I wanted to regenerate my health. They don't want us to have fun. Because like I said, these are the same types of people that, you know, like they equate fun to glitches. They cannot have fun without ruining other people's day and without playing like a complete idiot. I've also seen this incredibly asinine argument, and it's like, well, stop complaining, just don't use those broken mechanics. Like, don't use that broken tech, don't use those broken characters. I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna use it, but my opponent will use it. So their response to that is, well, just don't play people who abuse glitches and play like that. Bro, everybody abuses glitches in these games. Everybody. That is not a solution. Like, don't play like that, and don't play people who play like that. The problem with these games is you can't just go, well, just don't play these people. That's like saying don't play the game. That is not a solution. You need to nerf all of these broken things. That is the only way to ensure that people will not abuse this. Now, this really ties into a much bigger problem. In all of these anime arena fighting games, people will abuse the most broken shit ever, and I don't know why. I mean, I know why, because they're bad at the game, and they like the feeling of winning. That's all they care about. They don't care about having fun while playing. It's only fun if they're winning. Even if they're abusing glitches, it doesn't matter. They want to win. These are the most despicable types of people, and of course, they will resort to all these insanely broken tactics, if you can even call them tactics, these broken characters and whatever, to win. And it's not just Storm, it's not just Sparking. As a matter of fact, this is one thing that I'll never understand. Like, Storm 4, like, that game's potential from a competitive standpoint is insane. Of course, it wasn't perfectly balanced, but Storm Evo fixed most of those issues. However, I'll never understand, like, I've watched hundreds of streams, you know, tournaments, FT10s, hosted by E and various other players, of advanced players going at it, you know, Geza, Rikudo, all, you know, Drix, Zui, all that, Borushiki, and, one thing that I'll never understand is, a lot of these players will just, even though they're incredible at the game, they're absolutely amazing at the game, they still use, like, maybe 7 characters. You have this game that has over 120 playable characters, but you only utilize, like, 1% of the roster. I don't understand. Now, I know that these characters are, like, really OP, but what's the point? For example, I know that Flake used to play the most random-ass characters, and my friend Django, he also played, like, all sorts of characters, but every time I watch a tournament or a first to 10 between advanced players, all I ever see is like Danzo, Six Paths Madara, Kaguya. Well, let me tell you, like, I think there are like 10 characters that are used in every Storm 4 advanced player match, and those are Danzo, Six Paths Madara, Kaguya, Tayuya, Temari, Pain, Nagato, the last Naruto, the last Sasuke with their adult costumes, Rinnegan Sasuke, Minato, Alive, Sage Hashirama, Neji, Yugito. Occasionally you'll see Storm 3 Kakashi, Storm 3 Madara, Rasa, Choji, because he's a dash cut, Shisui, and PTS Gara. That's like 20 characters, but keep in mind, mostly you don't even see all of these. You mostly see like 10 different characters at best. And what I don't understand is these advanced players, they can win with any character. They can beat you with PTS Obito. My friend knows every trick in the book with every character, and he can win. But these guys, like, wait, so you're an advanced player, yet all you use is meta. Because to me, that's kind of weird. Like, don't get me wrong, I think that, I always enjoyed watching those advanced player matches, but every single time it's like, you're an advanced player, yet you use the most broken shit in the game to win. So how does that make you different from all the people who spam that? Now, don't get me wrong, they play in a very specific way. They play very smart. But I just always find that really boring. Like, Kaguya matches, Tayuya matches, whenever I see Kaguya, Tayuya, Temari, Danzo, and Six Paths Madara, I'm like, alright, cool. Or Neji with the hitbox. Now, also one thing that I really didn't like is, like, how Awakenings, like, you'll see these advanced players fighting, and the guy is beating the other guy's ass, right? Like, it's like he has all of his HP intact, and this guy is zombie mode, like 0 HP. And this guy just awakens, and he completely flips the script, and now he's the one who won. And to me, that's just so goddamn cheap, which is why a lot of these tournaments, they would ban certain awakenings, like Six Paths Madara or Danzo, but the thing is, I don't understand. If I was an advanced player, I think I'd just be playing anyone. And this is like one thing that always pissed me off. Whenever I wanted to show my friends how complex Storm can be, Storm 4, I wanted to show them some advanced player matches, but every single time I was like, oh wait, I gotta pick one where there's no Kaguya or there's no Danzo's Awakening or anything like that, because otherwise people see that and they go, what the hell, this is spam. Like Kaguya's Lava Dimension, it can break your guard, this is boring to look at, how is this advanced play? So you gotta explain, no, this is advanced play, it's just, so you gotta find different matches where these advanced players use different characters that aren't all that broken. But anyway, my point is, this isn't about advanced players, because they can actually play the game, and they're actually incredible at the game. But everyone in this game, in these games, they pick the most broken, brain-dead shit that doesn't require any skill. Again, I'm not talking about advanced players, they actually know how to play these characters skillfully. But these other people, like, every single time, they will use the most broken shit. And the moment they nerf this broken stuff, they'll resort to the next best thing. So the only way to ensure that everybody can play this game normally is to nerf every single thing that is broken in the game and leave no stones unturned. Otherwise, you'll have people abusing stuff like this. And I think that's just sad. Because where's the whole, sportsmanship? Where's that whole thing about honor and playing for fun? Like, my friend, he was playing Sparking Zero. He's not an advanced player or anything. He's not even all that good at the game. He only played it offline. But he was like, okay, let me check online. I want to play somebody online. And they were just spamming Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta. They were spamming these glitches with After Image Strike. And, he would just lose, but he didn't really care because he wanted to have fun. But these people were tryharding so much. And the moment my friend actually came close to beating them, they would rage quit. And this is the state of anime games and these communities, they're so toxic. And I think the saddest part about all of that is these aren't kids. These aren't 12-year-old boys that rage quit and use all this stuff. These are, like, grown-ass men. Like, people in their late 20s, mid-20s, early 30s even, who do this stuff. That, to me, is absolutely insane. Since I'm already talking about how abhorrent the anime game community is, especially the Storm community, and how toxic it is, I figured I might as well talk about something else, something that I've been meaning to talk about for a while now. Remember how I said earlier in the video how there's one thing that I want to talk about, but I don't want to, and it's taking a lot of restraint, blah blah blah. Yeah, well, I changed my mind, so let's do it. Fuck it, we ball. I'm gonna show you all of these screenshots of this one individual. This is all one person, by the way. I gotta put an emphasis on that. This is one individual who is so obsessed with spamming Kaguya that it is actually unhealthy. I'm gonna show you what this person said, and this guy writes essays, man. Literal essays. Puppets and Kaguya are the only characters that truly require skill in this game. Everyone else relies on basic mash and dash mechanics. While Kaguya's ice tech may look goofy, it actually demands extreme speed and perfect input consistency to pull off her ice combo. On top of that, her hitbox is one of the largest in the game, and her movement is incredibly slow. To perform well with Kaguya, you must spend time in the lab and master her completely, which is why there are only about 4 skilled Kaguya players, including myself. No ego. No ego whatsoever, man. Compared to other overpowered characters, Kaguya is much harder to use. Most of the Kaguya players I've seen don't understand how to use her properly and are honestly trash. Remember, no ego. As for puppet users, mastering them requires learning puppet control, movement, strategy, and more. You can't just pick up these characters and expect to dominate like you can with other broken characters like PTS Naruto, PTS Lee, or Hanzo, who have some of the most broken mashes in the game. With those characters, you can tear through opponents and win any encounter just by relying on their easy, overpowered mashes, which I believe takes no skill. And I mean, you're right, these things are also terrible, which is why a lot of them that got nerfed, or they will be nerfed. The reason Kaguya and puppet players get the most hate is because other players can't just pick them up and be immediately strong. Yeah, that's why they get hate. They don't get hate because they're absolutely disgusting to look at and play. They get hate because people aren't skilled enough to use them. Alright, whatever. Also, countering these characters requires a completely different approach to the game. Compared to the mash and dash gameplay players are used to in Storm. Yeah, because it completely kills Storm. It's not even Storm when you pick up Kaguya, which is why it's not a different approach. It's something that's never meant to be. It was never meant to be in the game in the first place. So here you can see this guy going, yeah, I doubt she'll get nerfed. I'll be surprised if they nerf. I'll be so upset. I'll be so mad. I just need to find a new team to spam. I'll just need to find a new team for her because Temari might also get nerfed. And what do I do then? What do I do if they nerf all these spammy, broken characters, man? And then you see this guy saying, something about Storm Evo, and this guy says, should I go in and cook you? And this guy goes, we know you're good at a modded game and not the official vanilla ones. We get it. Bro, you know what? This is the type of stuff I keep talking about. Storm Evo is the most balanced iteration. Well, it's not really an iteration. It's like the most balanced version of Storm we've ever gotten. Because Storm 4 is 50 times more balanced than Storm Connections in every way. And Storm Evo fixes most of the most jarring issues in Storm 4. The issues that bedeviled Storm 4 since launch. And obviously that would also mean that Storm Evo being the more balanced game, if you win at this game, which is more balanced, that would also make you the better player because you're not abusing things. But this guy goes, it's a mod, it's not an original game, so it doesn't matter if you're good at a mod. I'm good at this really horrible, broken mess of a game, and I can spam Kaguya, which makes me the better player. You're not a real Storm player because you play this mod, even though the mod is absolutely like 50 times more balanced than the game I play, but whatever. So this is what I keep talking about, you know. He then posts videos of himself winning with Kaguya, going, skill issue! This is one thing you'll find with these toxic players. They love using the term skill issue. They love it so much. It's like, skill issue, everything's a skill issue. He goes, in a few hours, Kaguya might get touched. I'm nervous. Oh. Bro, imagine being so insane that you're literally shitting your pants at the thought, at the prospect of this game being more balanced and your broken mess of a character being nerfed. Rightfully so. So this guy says, people think I just spawned out of nowhere with Kaguya. I've been top 15 on that game for months and like top 30 at launch. Laughing, crying emoji. Bro, no. Bro, whenever somebody mentions that they're top 15 or top 30 or top anything, or they look at the leaderboards and they take that as like something that's actually important, that's a telltale sign, a dead giveaway that you're dealing with a meme individual. Because every single time, like people who say that they're top, I'm actually top 7 on PC. You know, the leaderboards don't lie. First of all, it's all BS. Second of all, imagine unironically flexing. Imagine unironically boasting, bragging that you are top 10 in the most broken Storm game of all time. That's like saying I eat the most shit. I won first place at the shit eating competition. Well, I'm just better than you guys, you know? That to me is absolutely mad. But I don't know what I was expecting. So he goes, rest in peace, my Kaguya. And this guy who clearly agrees with him, you know, they're on the same wavelength, like-minded individuals. Yep, really sad. We finally got nice costumes for her, but I don't think it's worth it anymore. They reduced her combo damage to like... And this guy says, she didn't need a double nerf. The Spark Dash nerf would have been a need itself. It should have been one or the other. She got double nerfed, you know, and then you know, oh my god, man. And this guy goes, true, I give up on this game. The devs don't know what they're doing. Everything gets nerfed to the ground. They don't want us to have a little bit of fun. I play the same 5 people every day. Not worth it anymore. You know, this is absolutely disgusting. This is the thing I despise the most, and everybody despises this. Like, doesn't matter if you're an advanced player, doesn't matter if you're a casual, doesn't matter who you are. These are the types of people who equate fun to ruining everybody's day, to spamming glitches, abusing exploits, and I would argue that CC2 knew exactly what they were doing when they nerfed Kaguya to the ground. In fact, I would have nerfed her even more if possible. So imagine saying, now I can't have fun. Basically, the only way you can have fun, the only way these people can have fun in this game is by spamming the most broken shit that never should have been in the game in the first place. And when the developers nerfed it, because it was not their vision of how the game should play, they got mad. And they're like giving up on the game. Imagine being, I swear to God, these people act like they are literally 4 years old. Imagine being like, I'm invested in Storm and all. I love Storm. It's been my life for like more than 10 years. But I have never, like, let's say that Kaguya really was a really balanced character. And like, she wasn't OP at all. Let's say that, hypothetically speaking, for the sake of the argument. Like, Kaguya was actually really, really balanced. And now they nerf her, and she's not as viable anymore. And let's say, like, that happened to me. I was a Kaguya player. I wouldn't give a fuck. I would just still play her. Like, I like playing Kimimaro. He's completely ass in this game. But if he got nerfed even more to the point where he became even more unplayable, I wouldn't mind. You wouldn't see me complaining on Twitter and Discord and fucking YouTube and everywhere on every video about how this guy got nerfed and my favorite character got nerfed and now I'm gonna, you know, abandon the game. That is the mentality of these people. It is absolutely sad. It's lamentable. If you really are good, if you really do have skill, you're not gonna complain about a character being nerfed. So this guy, you know the video he posted, the skill issue thing? Yeah, well, somebody commented on the video on Twitter and said, I find playing like this absolutely disgusting and toxic. True. Players like this are really the ones who damage the game's community and make it toxic. In no way can this be a quote-unquote good player, which is absolutely true. It's like, even people who, like, don't have experience with Storm, they go on Storm, they see this, and they go, I'm not playing this game. If this can be in the game, I'm not gonna play it. And then this guy goes, this takes more skill than any character in the game. Stop crying. Stop crying. Another, skill issue. Stop crying. They love using these fucking words. And this guy says skill for you is playing like a fucking rat, continuously doing a shitty exploit. Is that skill? And this guy goes full defense mode, because that's all he does. I'm dashing and continuously fighting the player, therefore I'm not playing like a rat. Wow. Second, it's just her ice and spark dashes, so it's not an exploit. If you don't think it's skill, pick up Kaguya right now and do exactly what I did in my video. Well, my friend did it in under 1 minute, and he said this is disgusting, and he was one of the best players in Storm 4. A much better game than Storm Connections, you can't even compare them. He's currently playing Evo. So, this guy goes, and FYI, overusing the same mechanic over and over is spam, not skill. I'm tired of how some players think this is an achievement when in reality it becomes toxic to the community. This is exactly what I keep talking about. I don't care if something takes, which, by the way, this isn't impossible. With practice, you can master this. But even if I knew how to do this, I would not be able to sleep at night, knowing that I'm playing like a fucking rat, ruining people's day. But this is all these people care about. They don't care about fun. They don't care about playing the game. You think this guy even likes Kaguya? No, because if he liked Kaguya, he would play her outside of the ice dimension. But all he does, the moment the match starts, is he goes into the ice dimension. That's all he does. He spams the ice spikes. That's literally the whole playstyle. So this guy goes, you can say that for almost every character player in Storm. Someone is always spamming a mash or jutsu support. That's how the game works. It's just in Kaguya's case, it takes skill to do her quote-unquote spam instead of 0 brain cells. I cannot believe the rationalizations and justifications that these people will come up with. Show this to any sane person. Doesn't matter if they play the game or if they don't play the game. They'll see this and go, okay, I'm not gonna play this. This is just boring. This is stupid. It doesn't really mean anything. It's obviously a glitch. Even if this took 7 straight years mastering this 24/7, labbing the game like a maniac. If you had to do this like with insane timing, like frame 1, and it was the hardest thing you could do in video gaming history, it would still not make it justifiable because it's still spam. It's still an exploit. The fact that you even gotta explain this to these people and that they don't acknowledge this is absolutely sad. So this guy goes, I won't deny that the game is atrocious and that the spam is absolutely rewarded over skill, but I'm not going to praise you for being able to do it with Kaguya either. At the end of the day, it's still the same thing. And this guy goes, I don't think people are praising me for Kaguya alone, but my speed with her. Remember, no ego, People don't praise me because I use Kaguya. They praise me because I'm such a god. I'm so fast, man. I'm so fast with Kaguya, man. So this guy goes, and what do you use that speed for? To do this spam? Like, do you want a medal? Is this really an achievement to do this? Do you have fun? He goes, to play the game, duh. And yes, it's really fun to fly across the screen. I spent hours practicing spark dashes. I'm gonna be proud of being faster than players. So in other words, what he said here is, I spent a lot of hours spamming and learning how to spam this broken tech, and I've learned how to do it, and I'm very proud of myself for being a toxic, terrible player with a disgusting playstyle. But this isn't the end, because you know that Twitter post CC2 made where you can basically leave your requests and, talk about what you want change in the game, characters, nerfs, buffs, whatever. Guess what this guy did? On the 1st of October, he goes and says, revert Kaguya's nerf. The increased Chakra dash cancel is already a sufficient adjustment. The additional damage reduction was unnecessary. The less Chakra she has, the less damage she can deal. Adding a damage reduction on top of that results in 2 reductions, which isn't fair. The fact that this guy is talking about fairness, when he does the most abominable, despicable shit in the game, is just beyond me. And just think for a second, if this was you, if you were somebody who knew how to do, this Kaguya spam, and you went online, let's say you're a normal person, you don't care about the W, you care about having fun, right? Would you really have fun like this? Because I know I wouldn't. It's just not fun. No, only people who are genuine scumbags can look at this and go, this is fun. These are the same people who, in Sparking Zero, complain about how, well, stop complaining about the game, it should be unbalanced. And when they nerf something, they complain that it got nerfed because they can no longer abuse it. And these are the same types of people. Same exact types of people who literally take this character only because she is overpowered. Everything about this person, this person basically embodies everything that's wrong with the Storm community and with the anime game community in general, leaving comments asking the developers to revert the changes they made to this clearly broken mess of a character that was clearly not meant to be in the game like this, is just beyond the pale. I cannot fathom, I don't understand how these people's brains operate. The only thing that comes to mind is these people love ruining other people's day. They get this ego boost from spamming, and it's an easy win, even though he practiced. I'm not denying that this guy had to practice for this. I'm not denying that at all. Yeah, he did probably spend a few hours practicing spark dashes to be able to get this efficient at spamming Kaguya. But then, because of this, he's like, oh man, I'm so good at this, I'm gonna ruin people's day. Skill issue, stop crying. It's clearly a very toxic individual, and these are the types of individuals that ruin Storm connections. If there was this one mechanic in the game that makes it so that if you time it properly, it's literally frame 1, you win the game. The game just, stops and it says you win. Would you still do it? If you were saying, I know this guy would do it. This guy would exploit anything for the W because he only cares about winning. He doesn't care about the game. He doesn't care about Naruto. He doesn't care about Storm. It's literally, would you do that? It doesn't matter that this is so hard. Just because something is difficult to do doesn't mean it can't be spammed. By the way, Poison, all these advanced players, they all basically said, yeah, this has to go. We're not allowing this in tournaments and streams, whatever we host, we're not allowing this. And this guy was actually in the comments, and he wrote one of the biggest, what the fuck is that? Holy shit. Nah, I'm not gonna, I can't even fit this, into the video. I gotta split this into parts. He wrote one of the biggest essays, and I know I'm not one to talk because, look at the length of this video and every Storm Connections video that I've made and my Dante guide. But bro, and it's kind of funny because these types of people are usually the types that, if you present a well-constructed argument and it's kind of lengthy, they'll be the first to say TLDR. I ain't reading all that. But look at this amount of cope and projection. This huge-ass essay just to justify, oh, well, my spam is actually not spam. I'm not even gonna read this because I'm really just tired of it, but I'm gonna leave you with, you can pause the video if you want to read the whole thing, which I really don't advise because it's just more of the same. It's no, this requires skill, unlike other things in the game that don't require skill, and it's just insane. Now, people were expecting everything to change with the advent of Sparking Zero. It was supposed to be this revolutionary game, the best anime arena fighting game of all time. It was also supposed to be the final nail in the coffin for Storm Connections. And, well, Storm in general. That's what everybody was saying. And I gotta give credit where credit is due. The game had some of the best marketing I had ever seen in my life. Literally every month, there were multiple trailers. They put a huge emphasis on the character amounts, the graphics, there was a lot of fan service, and not to mention the game is literally a direct sequel to Budokai Tenkaichi 3, which came out in 2007, which, 18 years later, we finally get a new Budokai Tenkaichi game. So, naturally, all of the Budokai Tenkaichi veterans were also hyped beyond belief for this game. So, and obviously it's Dragon Ball. So, need I say more? So literally everybody was hyped for this game. Like, even if you weren't a Dragon Ball fan, the presentation alone, the music, the nostalgia baiting, like, it would get you curious, if nothing else. Hell, I even got a Sparking Zero ad multiple times. Like, I think I got it 3 times while I was watching some random video. That's how good the marketing was for this game. I don't think I'd ever gotten a video game ad on YouTube, not counting those shitty mobile games, the ones. And the game sold 3 million copies in under 24 hours. Now, I'm not saying that was solely due to the marketing, but I definitely think that marketing is beyond instrumental in making a game successful. Now, look at Demon Slayer Hinokami Chronicles. That game sold around 3.5 million copies over the course of 3 years, and Sparking Zero sold that much in just 1 day. Mind you, this was during the apex of Demon Slayer's popularity. Like, we had the movie, the Mugen Train arc, the Entertainment District arc, which was, like, the best animated arc. So people were, like, insanely hyped. At the time, Demon Slayer was the most popular anime. I would say now it's probably Jujutsu Kaisen, but yeah. And this game just broke all records. But you know me, I take everything with a grain of salt, and I'm pretty pessimistic. So when the first gameplay trailer came out, I was kind of skeptical. I couldn't really put my finger on it, but something felt off. And then it dawned on me, this game kind of looks like it's going to play like Jump Force. Like, the movement, the animations, it all looked kind of floaty and janky and stiff to me. Now, of course, I wasn't expecting this game to have storm levels of smoothness. I don't think any anime fighting game has ever reached that. So I wasn't really expecting that. I didn't set the bar that high. But it's just that the game itself really felt odd. Like, the hits didn't really feel impactful. The camera was weird. I mean, visually, the game was stellar. Like, the models were very high quality. But I just couldn't shake this feeling, Now, people love to cope by saying how, oh, it's an early development, don't judge a book by its cover. But believe me, 99% of the time, what you see in the first trailer of a video game is what you get in the final product. And this has been the case for almost every game I've ever seen. And I like to think that I have a good eye for animation and mechanical fluidity, so I was like, I really think this kind of looks like Jump Force. But obviously I didn't want to write the game off because of, first impressions and all. And then lo and behold, I was right on the money. Because the game is literally Jump Force with extra steps. And believe me, I derive no pleasure from this. You think I'm happy that the games we're getting are mid? Like, it was the same with Demon Slayer, minus the animations. Like, the cinematics. I wanted to give this game the benefit of the doubt. I really, genuinely thought that it would play better than it looked. I wanted to be wrong. Like, and honestly, if this was any series other than Dragon Ball, if this was a Black Clover game or a My Hero Academia game, I don't think anybody would have cared at all. There were 2 main things that carry this game, maybe 3. The fact that it's Dragon Ball, like the Dragon Ball name, and the graphics. The third potential reason being the fact that it is a sequel to Budokai Tenkaichi 3 and it's been almost 2 decades. Now, I don't care if this is a hot take or a slippery slope or if I'm going to be ruffling some feathers because, I'm willing to die on this hill. I mean, I want all the smoke in this video. And most of my friends agree with me. Like, my friend from Italy, he played Budokai Tenkaichi 3 and he actually trained a few months, like a few weeks before Sparking Zero. He trained, he played with his brother. He played Budokai Tenkaichi 3 with his bro. He was training for Sparking. And when the game came out, he was beyond disappointed. And my friend from Germany, he was in China for 2.5 years, so he didn't have the chance to play Connections or Sparking. So he comes home, and he plays Sparking twice, and then he uninstalls the game because it was so ass compared to Budokai Tenkaichi 3. Keep in mind, my friend from Germany is a huge Dragon Ball fan, as is my friend from Italy. So both of them are huge Dragon Ball fans, both of them were huge Budokai Tenkaichi 3 fans, and this game was just completely, it just disillusioned them. Like, completely. And, it's one thing to have an unbalanced game, but this was just ridiculously depressing. And I thought I was insane, but when more and more people started to agree with me, I was like, okay, I guess I'm not insane. And now I know people will say, oh, you're in an echo chamber, you're surrounded by yes men. But no, it's not hating, you just don't want to play a downgrade. And look at all the new videos we're seeing. So many people have left the game, like 80% of the player base is gone. And it's only been like, what, 3 months? Not even? And it's just gone. Now I want to talk about the characters. So first of all, the moment I heard there were going to be 183 playable characters, I knew there was going to be a catch. And what do you know? I was spot on once again, because every single character in this game plays the exact fucking same. They are all just reskins. Every character has the exact same moveset. The only difference is in the ultimate attack and the super moves, like the rush or whatever it's called. Every Goku plays the exact same. Every Vegeta is the exact same. Every character just repeats the same 3 punches and kicks, and that's a combo. And that's why the game has so many characters, because they're laughably easy to make. They're all the same. It's quantity over quality. And people just love glazing this game, but it's really not all it was cracked up to be. Look at Storm. Like, look at the way Hashirama throws the Shuriken. Look at the smears, the impact frames. Look at how every character has a unique ninja move, the cinematics, the ultimates, the animation itself. Animation is way more important than graphics in these types of games, and like in general, not to mention that Storm has incredible graphics. It's not really bad or anything. And I'm a huge animation buff. I basically examine and analyze everything frame by frame. Like, compare Isshiki's moveset to someone like, I don't know, Ultra Instinct Goku or Gogeta. And Isshiki, by the way, he's a new character, and he doesn't even have that impressive of a moveset. But look at the capoeira style of his fighting. They put so much love and care into every moveset. They make it so that they reference moves from the anime. Look at Naruto. Bariyama Naruto used this Tetsu Zanko versus Isshiki in their fight, and you can see that in his awakening. He uses that. The impact is just, nothing has ever come close to Storm when it comes to animation. The only game that has come close to, cinematics is Demon Slayer Hinakami Chronicles. I would argue that game actually has better ultimates than Storm, even. And that's also CC2, by the way. So, yeah. But anyway, look at this. Look at how these characters are, look at the amount of detail. That is something the particles, the amount of everything. It's the same in DMC. This impact, this flexibility, this fluidity is something that's exclusive to Storm, basically. And that's why no game has come close to it, at least in that department. I mean, close to beating it. But look at Gogeta and Ultra Instinct Goku. These characters have a completely different fighting style, but do you even see that? No, you don't. They play the exact same. They repeat the same 3 punches and kicks, and that's a moveset, and that's the same exact thing for every character in this game. I mean, some characters will use a sword, like Trunks or Janemba, stuff like that, but realistically, it's all the same. It's just a reskin. As for the mechanics, I don't even know where to start. There's so many videos on this. The super counter, it allows you to counter out of anything. So many things in this game are just completely RNG. They're completely random. The game tries to make you feel like it's a skill issue, it's timing related, you gotta learn it, you gotta master it, but it's ultimately random. And it's all different online, depending on the delay. You can master something offline, but you go online and you can't do that same thing because the timing is completely different. You have unblockable ultimates, you got undodgeable ultimates and supers. Vanishing sometimes works, sometimes it doesn't. The delay is also a problem. The game has so many weird issues with the camera. Sparking mode is an insta-win. You can actually get sparking mode 3 times in a row sometimes, which happened to me and my friend. That basically wins you the game. Perception, after image strike, I can't even begin to describe the amount of broken shit in this game. It makes Storm look like a godsend. Do you realize how low the bar has to be for connections to be considered a good game? Like, I'm talking about connections when I say Storm, obviously. Like, that's just crazy to me. Now, obviously, I'm talking about online. If you're a Dragon Ball fan and you want to play this game with your friends or offline, reenacting story mode scenarios, you're most likely going to have a blast. Like, the game has a lot of love put into it, like character interactions, unique grabs, all that jazz. And that's very nice to see. Compared to Storm Connections, it definitely has more soul when it comes to the offline experience. So it's a good party game, it's a good couch game, and you can have fun offline. Online, though, it's a completely different story. As a matter of fact, hardcore Budokai Tenkaichi 3 veterans were the ones who suffered the most because they waited 18 years for a new Budokai Tenkaichi game, and then they got this. Like, I've seen so many of them just quitting the game because it doesn't even have an iota of balance or competitiveness to it. At least Storm players, we waited 8 years. These guys waited 18 years for a disappointment. Now, Budokai Tenkaichi 3, it was an offline game. It was by no means incredibly balanced or competitive, yet it still had stricter limitations and rules. Things weren't as accessible and as spammable, but it's like Sparking was tailored to casuals, so they can just spam ultimates and go, this is so flashy. And the DP system is also really dumb. I know it was present in Budokai Tenkaichi 3 as well, but give me a reason why I would main a character that literally inflicts 0 damage and also takes damage incredibly easily. Like, one ultimate from my opponent will kill me, but I can land 3 ultimates and it won't even scratch my enemy. That's one thing that I really think is dumb. Like, if I like Bardock, I'm not going to be able to main him because he's so weak. I'm saying if we're playing, like, non-DP matches, So, that's basically kind of annoying, but it's really not that big of an issue. The cope I've seen in this community is off the charts. They make the Storm community look like angels. Like, they love saying how this game was never meant to be balanced, and how even the devs said so. Like, the developers said so. And they only do this so they could spam overpowered shit, like Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta, After Image Strike, all this stuff. And also, if this game was really meant to be unbalanced and brainless, mindless fun, why is there an online mode? Why is there ranked? Why was there a tournament being hosted by Bandai for prize money? Also, that tournament, I don't know if you're out of the loop, but there was a Sparking Zero tournament. I think it was like in France or something. Official stuff, by the way. And the players were just flying around for 20 minutes straight with Dr. Giro. And this basically caused so many people to just quit the game. Like, I mean, I'm not saying this was the main reason they quit the game. It was an amalgamation of things. But everybody was just, oh my god, this is embarrassing. Like, this is absolutely embarrassing. Like, how? And keep in mind, I played this game. I have 12 hours worth of recorded matches, but I used copyrighted music, so I never really got around to uploading them. So I do have experience with this game. But after playing it with my friends, we just collectively decided to uninstall it because it simply wasn't worth it. And we just went back to Storm because it's more up our alley. And we actually started to appreciate connections. That's how bad Sparking Zero was. And it was just becoming infuriating. The game was so screwed at its core that I think it's irreparable, honestly. Like, they did try mending some issues here and there, but there's just a long way to go for that game to ever even be remotely considered playable, let alone competitive. And look, I'm not just saying this because I'm a biased Naruto fan. Even if I was a huge Dragon Ball fan, like my friends, I still wouldn't like this game. I mean, my friends are Dragon Ball fans, and they were still disappointed by the game, because Budokai Tenkaichi 3 was just way better in every way, and this was a downgrade. Like, Naruto was my whole life, but if Storm didn't meet my expectations, I wouldn't be playing it. I never would have gotten into the series if not for the animations and the beauty of the game. This game was so hyped up, and look at what we have now. How the community is killing Sparking Zero. Why everyone is quitting Sparking Zero. It's getting worse. DBZ Sparking Zero sucks. Sparking Zero blinded by nostalgia. France qualifiers expose Sparking Zero's greatest problems. Why Dragon Ball Sparking Zero sucks. A super comprehensive. The end of Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. The sad state of Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. Why 95% of the players have quit Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. The truth. Dragon Ball Sparking Zero is dying fast, but these 3 changes will save the game. More like these 3,000 changes. Sparking Zero was just embarrassed in front of everyone. That was the tournament thing. The second most toxic community ever seen. I wonder what the first community is. The official Sparking Zero tournament was embarrassing. Why I deleted Dragon Ball Sparking Zero for good. I deleted Sparking Zero, not clickbait. Sparking Zero is dying. Why I dropped the game. This is why Sparking Zero is dead. 90% of Sparking Zero players have left as the game dead. Blah, 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 boom, boom, boom. You know, it's basically all insanity. This is the game that was so hyped up, but look at the Steam charts. I mean, don't get me wrong, the game isn't as dead as Storm Connections, but I mean, come on, bruh. This really your game? No, I really want to show you guys something. I want to show you peak brain rot, because this video is full of it, but you got to see the peak, alright? So, on the 19th of September, 2024, there was an announcement for Borushiki, who was the last DLC character for Storm Connections for Season Pass 1. And Naruto video games, they obviously made this announcement on Twitter, as they always do. They usually do this on the 19th or 20th of the month, every 2 months. That's usually how it works. And this was no different. However, this announcement just so happened to coincide with the final trailer for Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. And I mean, alright, cool, you know, it was all according to schedule, you know, I mean, that's how they work, that's how they operate, there was nothing weird about this. Well, Dragon Ball fans beg to differ. Now, like I said, Dragon Ball Sparking Zero was probably the most anticipated anime game of all time. Most people, Storm players included, believe that this game would dethrone Storm 4 as the highest selling anime game. And I said that's not unlikely at all. It's not implausible at all. It's probably going to happen. And as a matter of fact, the game ended up selling 3 million copies in under 24 hours, which is like, it's a milestone, I swear. But in the comment section of this post made by Naruto Video Games on Twitter, you know, the Borushiki announcement, I saw a lot of people roasting the game. And I mean, you know, I was like, okay, this is par for the course. I mean, everybody's dogging on Storm Connections. I'm dogging on the game. Storm players hate the game. So it's only natural that people are gonna, you know, roast the game in the comments. However, what I saw was different, because there was a disproportionate amount of people roasting the game in the cheapest ways imaginable. And all of these people were Dragon Ball fans, or Sparking Zero fans, or whatever. I feel like they had a Discord server or a group chat where they all collectively agreed, like, you know, the Naruto video games, they announced a new character for Storm Connections. Let's go jump them. Let's go roast the game in the comments. You know, that's basically what ended up happening. I'm almost, like, 100% sure. Like, so anyway, without further ado, let's actually look at what I'm trying to say. Let's look at what I'm talking about. So check this out. So, this is the announcement for Borushiki. And this guy says, well, you know, Ninja, we don't give a fuck. So I'm like, alright, and obviously, you know, I went into this guy's profile, just in case, and yes, this guy is a huge Dragon Ball fan, and look at this, somebody said, can we agree that Gojo Satoru is the most overrated fictional character of all time? And this guy says, this guy still exists, sadly, and it's a picture of Kakashi. Bro, I don't know a single person that unironically hates Kakashi. Like, you got people hating on Sasuke, hating on Naruto, hating on Obito, but I've never seen anyone hate on Kakashi. And I don't even think Kakashi's overrated, because usually people glaze the Uchihas. They glaze Itachi, Madara, Obito, Sasuke. You know, here and there you'll see something. Even Shisui, right? But Kakashi? Overrated? So clearly this is some deranged Naruto hater, but it doesn't really matter. So he's like, okay, we don't care. Alright, so let's see the second guy. Sparking Zero comes out in 2 weeks. They can keep that weak-ass DLC. And of course, it's some Dragon Ball fan. You can see it by the media. But, you know, whatever. So, nobody cares. I mean, this guy's name is the Sparking Zero Saga. I mean, bro, need I say more? Like, come on. I mean, like, look, all he says is nobody cares. Like, that's his whole fucking thing. So this guy says, bad day to announce this. We're hyped for hashtag Sparking Zero right now. And I mean, okay, whatever. So this guy says, dropping this within an hour of Sparking Zero's trailer is certainly a choice. I mean, bro, it's like standard protocol. It's standard operating procedure. This was not done deliberately as some 5D chess move, like, oh, we're gonna do it at the same time as Sparking Zero's trailer, you know, we're gonna get a 10. That is so, I don't even know how these people operate, how their minds work, but whatever. So this guy says, you know, Naruto revealing its DLC the same day Sparking Zero reveals the rest of its characters, and it's like people who be desperate for attention. This is a recurring pattern you'll see with all these comments. They're all saying how this Borushiki announcement being made on the same day as the final trailer for Sparking Zero was an attention-seeking move, like attention-seeking behavior, like CC2 and Bandai or, well, Naruto fans trying to stay relevant when they know they have no chance against Sparking Zero. Even though it's clear as day, it's abundantly clear to anyone who follows the news, or even people who don't, that this has nothing to do with Sparking Zero. It's literal shadowboxing. These people made some weird headcanon that this was done for attention, and now they're rolling with it, and they're just attacking everyone. Like, they want to be the center of attention. They want to be the center of attention so bad that it's actually pitiful. So this guy says, we are here for Sparking Zero, he says we are here for Sparking Zero, not Naruto. My brother in Christ, you are literally on a Naruto video games account. You are literally, like, you made an active effort, you exerted the power to go on this account and make that comment saying we're not here for Naruto, we're here for sport. Oh my god, how do you even realize, these people even realize how, I can't believe it. Like, they literally look at this, they go to a page, they go on a Naruto account, and they say, we're here for Sparking Zero, not Naruto. What? I don't know, man, I don't know. So this other guy says they want to compete with Peak so badly. This guy says, it's really not that serious. Both games are under Namco's umbrella, and this reveal was scheduled as well. Which, I mean, you know, hats off to you, bro. You're the only guy here who has a brain, apparently. But, oh well, he got ratioed, obviously, so, yeah. This guy goes, cook them! Cook them! Man, just want to be involved. You know, like, I can't believe they're so fucking stupid, man. Nobody cares about this mid-ass game. We playing Sparking Zero. Bro, these people literally sound like complete NPCs. You know those people that literally don't even have a brain? Like, completely lobotomized people. Like, I cannot even fathom, I can't comprehend what would compel somebody to just do all this. It's so sad. This guy goes, no one cares! All caps, I gotta yell, no one cares! Sparking Zero has peak! Grah! What? Oh my god, man, I can't. This game is finished! Sparking Zero taken over now. And of course, keep in mind, these are all Dragon Ball accounts. Like, look at the profile pics, look at the names, you already know. So, you know, I mean, come on. I've never seen a game get sunned so hard. Died how you lived, a bum. Tell the Sparking Zero devs to work on Storm 6, okay? Laughing crying emoji. Please don't. Please don't. Like, don't compare. As much as I love to hate on CC2, they are masters of their craft when it comes to animation and detail. Nothing in Sparking Zero compares to Storm... It doesn't even compare to Storm 2, let alone Storm Connections. And do you know how badly you gotta fuck up to make Storm Connections, one of the most unbalanced and worst Naruto Storm games, look like a godsend in comparison to your game? Yeah, well, Sparking Zero did that, which is absolutely crazy and kind of sad, but alright. So this guy goes, Sparking Zero fucks given. Good one, bro, good one. So again, you already know the kinds of people we're dealing with, like literally obsessed with Dragon Ball. Bro, just change your profile to Sparking Zero content. Oh, and, you know, this guy going, like, someone tell me what's more impressive. 4 out of the 6 of the highest-selling anime games are all Dragon Ball, or the single highest-selling game is Naruto because they only dropped one game post-2016 that did so poorly they had to make it free for all players. So, again, the guy is basically just hating on Storm being... They're so jealous of Naruto and Storm that it's actually not even funny. Like, they will find every argument to turn something into a competition against Naruto, or just glaze Sparking and glaze Dragon Ball. I cannot fathom this, but whatever. Nobody gives a fuck! Move aside! It's Sparking Zero takeover, lil bro! You're finished! And he almost spelled that correctly. I feel like these guys are literally 6. You know, like everything they say, this mob mentality, it reeks of Twitter. This is why I don't use Twitter. The only reason I even have a Twitter account is that I could follow some DMC advanced players, some animators, and artists. And that's it. I don't even post on Twitter. I don't even like anything on Twitter. I just lurk there occasionally, you know, from time to time. And it's because of shit like this. There's so many people on Twitter, usually One Piece fans and Bleach fans, and their whole accounts are just hating on Naruto. That is all they do. Their whole lives are just hating on Naruto. It is beyond me. I can't even explain it, to be honest, but whatever. So, we don't give a fuck! I mean, you know, the fact that you gotta say how you don't care and you don't give a fuck, and then you all go out of your way to just post and flood this whole comment section with sparking. Like, imagine going, we don't give a fuck, and then you just clearly give a fuck, right? That's literally what they're doing here, because somebody who doesn't give a fuck doesn't go out of their way to comment. And not to mention that all of these people are like, you know, we're not here for Naruto. When you're clearly on a Naruto page, these guys are so brain dead, it's beyond me. But whatever. So this guy says, I can already smell him setting up Dragon Ball. Now, if we do it to them, they say the fandom is toxic. And these guys are saying how it's sad, you know, how the saddest thing is that they're being ignored, how, you know, it's basically how it works. You know, these guys are actually right, because these fans, these Dragon Ball fans, are absolutely insane. And to be honest, I didn't know they were like that. I knew that the One Piece fans and the Bleach fans had a lot of beef with Naruto. That's a generational beef that's been going on for like the last 20 years. But I didn't know the Dragon Ball community was like that. I always thought they were kind of, you know, chill and they didn't really care about anything. But this is just beyond the pale. I have no words. Laughs and Sparking Zero. We don't give a fuck about Boruto, LMAO. And this guy saying, you know, of course, Dragon Ball fans was being annoying in the comments, you know. Dragon Ball fans are the most jobless motherfuckers on Twitter. How the fuck does this post relate to Dragon Ball? And I gotta say, literally how? The saddest part is, nobody gave these people any attention whatsoever. Nobody gives a shit. Nobody gives shit about Burrito and Storm deconnections? You mean disconnections, I guess that's what he wanted to say. Nobody gives a fuck. And then flame emojis. Oh my god, man. You already know the types of people we're dealing with here. You know, the guys that literally every single word they say that comes out of their mouth is bro, and everything they type is just skull emojis. So, washed. Stop adding Boruto characters. We do not care. Make way for a real anime game. Watch your tone, mortal. And this guy, considering how Sparking Zero did, I mean, sure, it sold really well in the first day, but the game is kind of dead now. Like, I'm not saying it's as dead as Connections, but the game is dead in the water, and we will talk about that later. But for now, let's finish this up. So, again, we already know what we're dealing with. The guys roasting Boruto and Naruto. Sparking Zero is about to steamroll this ass game. Good riddance. Lord Zamasu, come on, man. Again, the same thing. Same day, Sparking Zero revealed the full roster, and then it's like people who be desperate for attention. Like, bro, I don't even know. And this nobody, that friend who always looking for attention. Bro, the only people looking for attention here is, like, it's you. Like, you are the guys who are here. Nobody even, well, I ain't got anything to say. Like, this is absolutely insane. No one cares. Nobody cares about that trash. We're all waiting for Bleach, Rebirth of Souls, and Dragon Ball Z. By the way, I'm calling it now. That Bleach game is going to be the worst arena fighter we've ever gotten. It's going to be worse than Sparking. It's going to be worse than Demon Slayer Hinakami Chronicles. It's going to be worse. It's probably, I'm not going to say it's going to be worse than Jump Force, but I have a very good eye for animation and for mechanics, and every single time I have been right. I saw DMC, and I saw the first gameplay video, and I was like, this game is going to be smooth, the animations are impactful, they're flexible, it's going to be great, and it was great, and it felt incredible. For Jump Force, Jujutsu Kaisen, Sparking Zero, all these games, I could tell that they were floaty and janky, the animations were very poorly done, and I was completely right. I was completely right. I was on the money. So anyway, that's about it. I don't really know what else to say. This is the state of Dragon Ball, the Dragon Ball community, and I would even go as far as to say that this community might actually be more toxic than the Storm community, or at the very least, more brain dead. Even though I said I feel qualified, the fact of the matter is, I only play this game with 2 people. Like, let me explain. With Storm 4, 90% of my matches were with my friend called Hisoka. The rest were just me playing with my friend from Germany and my friend from Italy, the professional Storm 4 player. And with Connections, Hisoka, the guy I used to play Storm 4 with the most, he quit the game because, he couldn't adapt to Connections, and he didn't really care about the characters, so, he was like this for a long time, way before Connections, because, Storm kind of started becoming boring to him. But another one of my close friends, who was never really all that good at Storm, he actually played Connections with me for a time. We played over 300 matches, probably. But he eventually left after Kawashiki, and he never came back. But 90% of my matches in Storm Connections are against my friend from Italy, the advanced players. So right now, I'm also playing my friend from Germany, but he's still learning the ropes. But what I'm trying to say is, I don't play this game online. I don't play ranked, and I only play 2-man teams. Because if I really did try to play this game online, competitively, seriously, I know I'd be in for hell. Because everybody plays 3-man teams, and even with 2-man teams, it's a clusterfuck, and I can barely tell what's going on. Add to that the fact that this game is just completely broken, and, then you got delay, you got people cheesing, tryharding. At least with my friends, I know that they're not gonna play like complete idiots. I think my decision to stop playing Storm online against randoms was probably one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life. Because I quit Storm, I quit playing randoms in, 2018, with Storm 4, and that's when I was like, okay, I'm only playing my friends from now on. And that's honestly the best, honestly, I'm not even gonna lie. Anyway, I really, sincerely hope you found this video insightful. I know it's way too long, but believe me, I was gonna make it longer. I have a whole hour-long section of the video where I discuss Season 2 and, my character predictions and some stuff about Twitter, but I decided to make that my next video. So, I'm gonna spare you guys. This is already torturous enough. So, yeah. Tell me what you think in the comments below, or don't, because, I'm pretty sure I've offended everyone with this video. So yeah, see ya, peace out, and have a good one. Damn, why did that sync so perfectly with Minato, man? This was completely unintentional, by the way. Like, I take random matches. What the...